Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. Marvel, collecting Shinra Tensei at the beginning. Chapter 141 Arriving at the Mutant Academy. While King and the others were looking for a room, Han Yu and the others came to the reception room and chatted with Charles and Eric while drinking tea. Hey, where did you find these people? There is actually a reformer in it. I don't think Stark is like that. Eric said to Han Yu in a low voice. Han Yu said nonchalantly, these people are not from this world. They come from another world, which is similar to our current Earth, but their world has a lot of monsters, so hero has become a kind of special occupation. In their world, all four are on the hero list. Guess who is the strongest and who is the weakest among them? Hey, this. I think it's Saitama, right? He looks so weak. This is a bit offensive, so Eric deliberately lowered his voice when he said it, for fear that others would be unhappy if they heard it. Han Yu looked at Charles, who also nodded, expressing that they had the same opinion, and Charles also felt that Saitama was the weakest. What about the strongest one? Han Yu continued to ask. King? He looks tall and powerful, and he has a lot of momentum. He must have a high status in their world, right? Charles said. You're half right. Han Yu smiled and said, the actual result is completely opposite to what you two said. Saitama is the strongest, while King is the weakest. No, it's making trouble. Both Charles and Eric were very surprised. Saitama looked dumbfounded. He will be the strongest? Han Yu picked up the teacup and took a sip, and said, when you have the opportunity to let them practice, you will know whether it is true or false. No matter how much you say, it will be empty words. That must be practiced. The one who can make Han Yu feel that he is the strongest must be the strongest, but they have not seen it with their own eyes, and Charles and the others really don't believe it. Even if they can't judge the strength of others by their appearance, it doesn't have to be to this extent. From the outside, Kyo looks like the kind of person who just came out of novice village. It is really hard to be convincing to say that he is the strongest. Charles and Eric are already planning when they will be able to practice. Looking at the two people who were chattering and discussing, Han Yu smiled, and was about to pick up the teacup to drink tea. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed slightly, and a strange feeling rose from the bottom of his heart. He felt that someone was watching on. This is a very powerful spiritual power, although it is not as good as his own, or even Eric's telepathy. The current mental power is not strong, but Han Yu can feel that the upper limit of this spiritual power will be very high. Han Yu could feel that the other party's mental power was very weak, but he could clearly let himself feel it. If he used the set of Huanggang secret papers that tested the mental power of King and the others as a criterion, the level of mental power the master can get a high score of 95 from the very beginning. By the way, the girl Ultron told me about is already here. Han Yu asked. Yes, she's upstairs, wait, I'll call her. Charles shouted upstairs, Jin, come down and meet new friends. After the voice fell for a while, there was a sound of light footsteps on the stairs, and the sound stopped from time to time. It could be seen that the owner of the footsteps was hesitant when going downstairs. A small head with wine-red hair suddenly appeared at the stairway, hiding behind the fence of the stairway and watching quietly, a little afraid of strangers. Jin, don't be afraid, come quickly. Charles beckoned to her, and Jean Grey hesitated for a while, and finally came over. Let me introduce, this is Han Yu, our principal. Charles introduced, this is Qin Gilei, the first student to enter the school, and I haven't figured out her ability yet. Ziokan, hello. Han Yu smiled at her, the smile was very peaceful, a faint ray of sunlight shone on his side face from the window, coupled with his face that was not bad at all, his eyes were so clear that it was easy for people to have a good impression. When he smiles, he feels like a gentle brother next door. Qin Gilei blushed, and she didn't dare to look Han Yu directly in the eyes. She didn't speak, but nodded to him as a greeting. Han, are you free? Let's go practice. Just tell me what their superpowers are, which will be more convenient for future teaching tasks. Charles made a suggestion. Now that Han Yu is here, he is familiar with Qiu and the others. It is better for him to introduce the abilities of the latter group than for them to gradually get to know each other later. Han Yu thought for a while, and said, it's also good, the sooner you understand the abilities of the people around you, the better your teaching tasks will be. To my place? No, we have a special place underground here for practicing abilities. I spent a lot of money to do it with Eric for 3 days and 3 nights. It's really not an exaggeration for 3 days and 3 nights. Charles said. Han Yu was a little surprised. Do you do it yourself? Charles said as he walked. That's right, this kind of thing can't be done by outsiders, but I have also asked others for help. To the outside world, we only said it was a design for escape rooms, but the materials are all carefully selected by us. Aerospace-grade materials, according to the calculations of the X system, that place should be able to withstand mutants below level 4. Below level 4, it's very powerful. Han Yu said, the mutants at level 3 are already considered outstanding, and their attack power is definitely not weak. I thought they would need the help of my grocery store. I'm also the first person you found. I can't just have superpowers. Charles laughed. Han Yu smiled and said nothing. This is the state he wanted. He would definitely help the mutant school, but he was only helping, not fully responsible. If he had to do everything, Han Yu was not a good person, and he didn't have the energy to waste too much time here. Kitama, have you cleaned up yet? Come down soon. Han Yu shouted upstairs, using a bit of mental strength in his voice to ensure that the voice could reach the ears of the 4 guys. Soon, a few people came down. Han Yu told them that he would show his strength later, and they agreed very cooperatively. After all, they came here to teach, and the teachers should understand each other's abilities. Also good. Everyone is here, let's go. After talking, Charles led everyone to the stairs. When the door of the stairwell next to the stairs was opened, it turned out to be an elevator. After the elevator is opened, the space is huge, and it can accommodate more than 20 people at a time. After entering the elevator, there is only one button inside. After the elevator starts, it takes several minutes to reach the bottom. I really don't know how deep it is. As soon as the elevator door opened, a corridor was in sight. The corridor was not long, and the silver metal door at the end could be seen at a glance, and there was an X letter on the metal door. Charles walked over and glanced at the input device next to him, and the input device rang. Welcome, Professor Charles. Chapter 142 Level of Development. The metal door opened slowly, and the space inside was huge, even larger than the space opened up in the grocery room in Han Yu's grocery store. Looking at the surrounding metal walls, Han Yu stomped his foot, and an invisible force came from the bottom of his feet, rushing to the ground. This floor is actually 6 meters thick, all metal. All metal, a half-meter thick metal block can survive the PRG missile without damage. Charles laughed, and it cost him a lot of money to get this thing. Yes, it can be used not only as a place to practice ability, but also as a refuge. Han Yu nodded in satisfaction. Although he didn't know what metal was used around him, he didn't leave any footprints when he stepped down just now. If he wanted to replace it with other boulders, he would have already turned into powder under his feet. After all, it is a place for mutants to practice, and the firmness must meet the standard, or even exceed the standard. The stronger the better. Han Yu originally planned to build this kind of place with a cart full of vibrating metals to mix with ordinary metals. But now it seems that there is no need. Although these metals are not as good as vibrating gold, they are enough for practice. If you want to destroy this place, you must be at least a 4th level mutant, otherwise you can't do it at all. Who will show it first? Han Yu asked. Let me go first. Genos stood up first, and said to everyone, I am a reformer, and I am ranked 17th on the list of S-class heroes in the original world. It's so boring to just show off. Only by fighting with someone can he display his skills better. Let me try. Eric stood opposite Genos and said with a smile, my ability is telepathy. Mutants, please advise. Please. It was just practice, but sparks burst out in the eyes of the 2 young gentlemen. Although they were both colleagues, it was the first time they met, and neither of them wanted to make themselves weaker than the other. Han Yu felt that it was okay to practice like this. Actual combat is indeed better than simply showing their abilities. Only when they face a battle can they better display their own strength and see each other's strength. Hit whatever you want, as long as you don't kill me, I can save you. Han Yu raised his right hand and spun lightly in the air, and a grass-woven basket appeared on the ground, filled with golden broad bean-like beans. This is the fairy bean. As long as you don't lose your brain in an instant, eat this fairy bean and immediately recover to the heyday, you can let go of the beating. Wow! There are also such good things. If they are placed outside, a single piece may be sold for tens of millions of dollars. 70. Then I won't be polite. Eric's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Please, guide, teach. In terms of momentum, Genos also refused to admit defeat. As soon as the words fell, Genos stepped on the solace of his feet, and the machine on his shoulders instantly transformed into 2 spray holes, and his figure burst out, disappearing from Eric's vision all of a sudden. That's quick, but I'm not a vegetarian either. Eric's pupils shrank slightly, a little surprised at Genos's speed, but he didn't panic. The next second, he closed his eyes, and at the moment of closing, his pupils were covered with a faint white layer guangua. Shock! A low shout came from Eric's mouth, and the invisible spiritual energy spread out in a circle centered on him. Spiritual energy spread throughout the venue in an instant, and the people and things around him appeared in his mind in a certain way. Even if he closed his eyes, he could clearly see the actions of other people. Sometimes when the eyes are closed, the heart is very clear. Eric murmured, and his movements changed immediately. He suddenly turned somewhere, his eyes were still closed, and when he raised his hand, there was an invisible mental impact, and he continued to push forward in a fan shape. Genos was affected by this mental shock. He was so fast that he could only vaguely see after images, but now he slowed down and appeared in everyone's sight. This guy is very powerful. He can actually combine his mental power with the echolocation of a bat. He can know my position even with his eyes closed, and he can also send out a substantial energy attack. Genos resisted the nausea caused by the mental shock just now, exhaled lightly and said to himself, "We have to keep a distance from him, close-range attacks are definitely useless. There must be a force field formed by spiritual power to protect the surroundings. Once I get close, it's really game over." Jumping back a certain distance, Janos began to analyze data in his eyes, looking for the best method. Han Yu, who was among the onlookers next to him, let out a light snort, and said, "It's interesting, Eric has developed his ability to such an extent." Han Yu's words were only admiration, because in his memory, Professor X in his previous life basically used this ability to find people, and he didn't have any cool attack methods at all, but now it seems that Eric used this ability. The ability is used well, and it can actually control the mental power to make it attack somewhere. In the beginning, I wanted him to use the X system to find mutants, but he didn't want to. He insisted on going to the front line to fight, so he was almost developing his mutant abilities during this time. There was some helplessness in Charles's tone, but he was also a little relieved. After all, he didn't like fighting, but the abilities he got were quite suitable for fighting, which made him quite helpless. Part of the reason Eric worked so hard to develop his abilities was because he didn't want Charles on the battlefield. He knew how much his friend from childhood didn't like to fight, and how much he couldn't fight. Ever since he was a child, Charles was bullied because of Eric's help. Even if he became a mutant now, the latter didn't want to make an exception to protect him. Han Yu nodded with a smile, and looked back at Genos and the two of them. After learning that the opponent's mental power can carry out long-range attacks, Genos adopted a roundabout attack method. Eric can use the echolocation of mental power to determine his position. It is definitely useless to run blindly. J. North drove straight in and directly launched a frontal attack. His arms were joined together, and the mechanical devices on his arms combined to form a giant cannon. The flames lit up in the giant cannon formed by his arms, and they fired instantly, and the overwhelming flames rushed towards Eric. This guy actually used such a large-scale killing move. Something is going to happen. Chi Yu secretly said badly, and was about to save someone, but an arm grabbed him, and when he turned around, it was Han Yu. Han Yu shook his head, raised his chin to the front, and motioned to continue watching. Saitama looked back, facing the overwhelming flame impact. The expression on Eric's face was as flat as ever. Chapter 143 How strong I am depends on how much you can think. His eyes were still closed, his brows were slightly raised, and a mental force so strong that they, the onlookers, could feel the real power erupted from Eric. The extremely strong invisible spiritual power actually condensed into a translucent giant knife in the eyes of everyone, and slashed towards the flames coming from the pavement. The flame was instantly split into two. Behind this translucent giant sword of spiritual power, a translucent fist suddenly condensed in the space, which continued to enlarge in Genos' eyes with an extremely depressing aura. Good, strong. This punch defeated Genos, and he lost. Are you okay? Eric stepped forward and extended his hand to Genos, who was sitting on the ground. It's okay, you are really good, we can learn more in the future. Genos said, he really thinks it's great to come here, there are masters everywhere, and the people who come out from here in the future must be very good people. Okay. Eric smiled, and the two hit it off immediately, and they didn't know each other without a fight. This result is not bad. No matter who wins, Han Yu will not be surprised. Now it is like assimilating combat power. Calculate what level Genos and his combat power will be in the Marvel world. For the next 2 hours, Eric acted as a sparring partner, fighting against the three of them. In the fight with Saitama, Eric lost immediately, and Saitama teleported behind him at the beginning, and the seemingly ordinary fist hit him at that moment like the sky falling. If Saitama hadn't stopped in the end, Eric was convinced that he would not have survived this blow. And in the fight with Fubuki, Eric also won. Fubuki is a superpower whose ability is to control the wind, but it is very quiet inside, and there is nothing for Fubuki to use as a side attack. Usually, her battle is to use the wind to manipulate various objects to launch attacks. The attack method is somewhat similar to Charles's magnetic field control. But it's smooth inside, not even a lot of dust. Although Fubuki's attack is not weak, it is not difficult to break through Eric's spiritual shield, and he was finally defeated by the opportunity. When it comes to King, the scene is a bit strange. Just facing him, Eric felt an invisible pressure coming to him, as if there was a giant standing in front of him. The pressure brought by ordinary people couldn't stand it at all. What's the matter with that sound? Charles asked. When Eric and King were standing opposite each other, the dull sound of dong 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 sounded from the latter all the time, as if two super-quality subwoofers were placed in front of you. And a single sound could make you his heart beats a beat slower. It's called the Emperor Engine, and it's King's ultimate move. When he enters a combat state, there will be this sound coming from his body, which means he is ready to attack. Fubuki's serious explanation seemed to be serious, which made Charles stunned for a while. Chi Yu and Han Yu, who knew the inside story, looked at each other and could see the dumbfounding expression on each other's face. The so-called Imperial Engine was made up by others. Okay, let's go here first, and call next time. Eric heard Fubuki's words, and he took the initiative to admit defeat, because the opponent's momentum was too strong. It's like the boss I met in a game. I am at level 20, but the other party has reached level 80. It is not of the same order at all. Neither Genos nor Fubuki was surprised by this result, because too many people directly conceded defeat when facing King. Han Yu really can't laugh or cry. Does it really depend on the opponent's imagination how strong King is? It's worthy of being the 7th place on the S-level hero list. Fuxu said sincerely, such a strong person stoops to be a student. What qualifications do I have to be a teacher? No, I have to study too. Han, I don't want to be a teacher, I want to be a student too. Me too. Genos said. Han Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Didn't you all agree to be teachers? If Mr. Saitama is the teacher, I have no opinion, but we must not. Seeing the battle between King and Mr. Eric, let us know how weak our strength is, and we need to train more. Genos looked serious when he said this, and it could be seen that he had already made up his mind. This result made Han Yu very helpless, but he couldn't tell the truth about King's so-called Emperor Engine. Even if this matter was not what he wished or deliberately developed, King has enjoyed some benefits brought by this status. If his identity is exposed at this time, it is okay here, but in their original world, King will be ruined. No, his end will be worse than ruined. The ignorant people will attack him, and King's daily life will become very difficult. Han Yu stared at King, who had returned to Q and whispered something to him. King is also well aware of these things, otherwise he would not have proposed to become a student from the very beginning. He just wanted to have real combat power for himself, otherwise it would be a bit suspenseful to keep this kind of thing a lifetime. The last. Qin, are you going to challenge everyone? Han Yu looked at Qin Delii who had been standing by the side, and smiled softly. Let's forget it. I don't know how to control my abilities yet. I'm afraid of hurting people. Qin Delii said truthfully. Well, that's fine. I want to tell you that your ability is called Phoenix Power, which is a cosmic level original power. If you want to master this power, you will be able to easily ascend to the ranks of mutants. Vertex, the 5th level mutant. Han Yu said, narrowing his eyes. 5th level. Charles and Eric were a little surprised when they heard this. It's not like they haven't thought about it. Based on the calculations of the X system, it is calculated that Jean Grey will definitely reach the 4th level of mutants in the future, and may even rush to the 5th level. But that's just speculation, not real. But if these words came from Han Yu's mouth, it would be different. Charles and Eric believed in Han Yu's words. The latter led the two of them to the path of finding mutants, and established this school. After the school became stronger and bigger, Han Yu the credit is a large part. Now I heard him tell Qin Gilei in a very affirmative tone that the mutant ability in her body is a kind of power of the universe, let alone Qin Gilei, a little girl. These big men were all frightened when they heard it. I was stunned for a moment. No matter how strong these mutants are, they are still human beings. Fortunately, Qin Gilei is directly the original power of the universe. Who can stand it? Is my ability really that powerful? Qin Gri was a little unbelievable. She thought she was unusual because she was a mutant. Fortunately, she was still unusual among the mutants and superpowers. Chapter 144 The Girl Who Fell from the Sky. You'll know if you're good or not. Just don't miss out on training. Come on, you're the star of tomorrow. Han Yu laughed. Okay, we're done playing, it's noon, let's go eat. Charles looked at his watch and said. Okay, let's eat and eat. As soon as he heard that he wanted to eat, Qiu became interested. He usually eats special food from the supermarket by himself at home, so he shouldn't be eating those things now. After the group got on the elevator, Qiu and Han Yu stopped at the same time as soon as they walked out of the elevator door. They looked at each other, and Qiu said, "Do you have any friends?" "No, I don't know who it is." Han Yu frowned slightly and shook his head. "What are you talking about?" Eric asked, and other people also looked over, and they didn't know what Han and Yu were talking about. "A guest is here, let's go see what's going on." After Han Yu said these words, his body turned into a phantom and disappeared from everyone's sight, followed by Qiu. In the manner of the mutant school, Han Yu and Qiu stepped out. When they looked up, a flame descended from the sky at an extremely fast speed. "What's that, a missile?" Saitama asked. Han Yu looked solemn and shook his head. "I don't think so, it seems like some kind of creature. We have to slow down their speed first, so as not to cause damage to the ground here." After all, the green light ring in Han Yu's hand kept gushing out energy, and with a violent wave of his hands, countless green lights formed a hexagonal tortoise shell-shaped shield in midair, with 6 lines in total, arranged in a hexagonal pattern. Each shield is connected by green crystal wires up and down, forming a huge tortoise shell-shaped shield. At the same time as the shield was formed, the meteor from the sky also fell on it, and the two collided, smashing the shield directly. Han Yu did not expect such a strong impact. When he reacted, the meteor has knocked out a huge pothole in the grass beside it, stirring up a thick cloud of smoke and dust. Han Yu and Qiu looked at each other, and they hurried up to check if it was good or bad. Qiu followed and slapped the pit into the pit, and the wind of the palm dispersed most of the dust in the pit. Seeing this thing that appeared in front of them, both Han Yu and Yu were shocked. "This is a dragon." The thing in front of him was a creature, more precisely, a dragon. The scales of this dragon were dark green, and the size was probably hundreds of meters long. The shape of the dragon looked like a dragon from the west of the earth. It was the first time for Han Yu to see a real dragon, and it had to be said that it was even more shocking than what he saw in movies and TV dramas. Even Qiu next to him was surprised. "A dragon fell from the sky. It's amazing. This is the first time I've seen it," said Qiu. "Me too, it's scary, but it looks like it's going to die," Han Yu said. The dragon's eyes were already drooping, and it looked like it was dying. "Hey, who are you? Do you want to grab my food?" While the two were discussing the dragon, a clear and ethereal voice sounded in the dragon pit, which made the two of them feel their scalps tingle with fright, and immediately put on a fighting posture. When they suddenly heard human voices coming from the dragon pit, it was still very scary all right. The ice wheel pill covered with white mist appeared in Han Yu's hand, and the green light energy was also covered on the blade, adding sharpness and firmness to the blade. On the other hand, Saitama raised his fists, with an ordinary fighting posture, but with a serious face on his face. This is his serious series boxing method. Usually Saitama can take down many weirdos with a single punch, but once he uses the serious series, it is even more impossible for anyone to defeat him, but his setting may not be effective in the Marvel world. A girl came out of the pit. If she hadn't stood up by herself, Han Yu and the others might not have been able to find her, because compared with this giant dragon, this girl is really too petite. Perhaps even the tip of the dragon's nails can't match. Han Yu was fascinated by the girl's appearance and clothes. Kyo looked at the dazed Han Yu, and seeing that she didn't speak, he asked the girl aloud, "What do you mean, food? Is this giant dragon your food?" This girl looks to be about 17 or 18 years old, with a height of 1.7 meters, a pair of slender white thighs that are very eye-catching, and a hat that looks like a bowler hat on her head, and there are two on both sides of the hat. Chamfered. The clothes on his body are mainly purple, and there is a thin mask-like mask on his cheeks, and a pair of big smart eyes are blinking at Han Yu and the two. The girl in purple blinked her eyes and said, "Yes, I've been chasing it for a long time. This big guy can really run. Seeing how big his muscles are all over his body, he must have a good taste." Saying that, the purple-clothed girl stood beside the dragon pit, her rosy mouth opened, and the hill-like giant dragon in the pit turned into a streamer, and got into the purple-clothed girl's small mouth. The process lasted for a full 30 seconds, and the giant dragon in the pit disappeared completely. Only then did the girl in purple pat her flat belly, looking satisfied. Looking at the flat belly, it was impossible to tell that it was he ate a giant dragon that was as tall as a hill. Hey, you're back to your senses, you've been in a daze for so long." Kyo poked Han Yu quietly, and said. Only then did Han Yu come to his senses. The reason why he was surprised was of course not entirely because of the figure and appearance of the purple-clothed girl, but more because of the dragon in the pit and the appearance of the purple-clothed girl's clothes. Han Yu knew that the giant dragon in the pit was called Extraordinary Dragon, and it was an alien creature. In Han Yu's memory, it should appear in the Marvel world, and was killed by a man named Mandarin. The villain summons and transforms, and finally turns into a steel-flying dragon with astonishing destructive power. If it is placed in Saitama's world, at least it is a dragon-level existence. But now, it was actually eaten by a girl. It was incredible for others to see this scene. But Han Yu didn't think it was weird, because he also knew the identity of this girl, just because the clothes on her were so representative. Especially the purple hat with two folded corners on her head made a name appear in Han Yu's mind, Galactus. This is one of the 5 creation gods, who live by devouring planets. His real name is Garland, but most people call him Star Devouring. In Han Yu's past life memory, Tun Xing is often dubbed a combat force unit by the majority of sand sculpture netizens, because he is always beaten to death in comics, and netizens always say the invincible Uncle Tun dies again law. Chapter 145 The Vigilant Han Yu. Over time, Galactus began to be dubbed a combat force unit by netizens. Whenever a new character appeared in the comics, people would ask him when he was said to be strong. How many star swallowing can you hit? Han Yu was amused when he saw this in his previous life. After all, it was a setting in the comics. It is not surprising to draw these old characters to death in order to highlight the strength of the new characters. But now once it is put in front of Han Yu, it will be a real person. These great gods are multiverse-level existences, and they are simply not something I can compete with now. Han Yu murmured in his heart. In Marvel's God level, it is divided into Earth level, Sub-Celestial Father level, Heavenly Father level, Single Universe level, Multiverse level, Super Universe level, and Omnipotent Universe level. Earth-level people are basically based on people like Thor and Hulk, that is, they belong to the top combat power in the planet, but they cannot easily destroy an entire planet. As for the Sub-Celestial Father level, Thor can reach this level in the future, and a Thor at this level can cause significant damage to an entire planet. The representative figure of the Heavenly Father is none other than Odin. He who led the Asgardian warriors to rule the 9 realms is enough to show how powerful the Heavenly Father is. This girl should be a single universe level existence, and I may not be able to beat her now. Han Yu muttered in his heart. The power of the Heavenly Father class affects the galaxies at most. For a boundary similar to the size of the Milky Way, the single universe class seems to be only 1 level higher than the Heavenly Father class, but its power is not at the same level at all. 1,000 Heavenly Father level gods are like ants in front of a single universe level god. As for the multiverse level gods, the most famous are the 5 gods of creation, eternity, infinity, death, annihilation, and the planet devourer. Han Yu's current strength is already unrivaled in the Heavenly Father class, but this is the Marvel Universe, where there are many powerful beings. There is also an organization called Tian Shen Group, and the people in it are all at the single universe level. If they are unhappy and come to the Earth to do evil, perhaps Han Yu may not be able to stop them. However, because the grocery store is an indestructible existence, even the supercosmic level or even the all-powerful universe level gods can't cause the slightest damage to the grocery store. These gods can still be regarded as something in Marvel's settings, but the grocery store is not. The grocery store is something beyond Marvel's settings. Although it has no autonomous attack consciousness, it cannot be destroyed. Destroyed items and the like. Is your father Galactus? Han Yu said seriously. Seeing Han Yu say this name, the girl in purple was a little surprised. She hadn't heard this name for a long time, let alone from a human. Qiu was also very surprised. Han Yu still knew the other's father? Just as he was about to let go of his guard, he suddenly noticed that Han Yu's left thumb holding the scabbard had been touching the guard of the knife. He was always on guard against the other party. To make Han Yu so vigilant, what is the identity of this girl? Qiu thought, and he also raised his vigilance. He didn't want to make himself cannon fodder. At this time, Charles and his party also came to Han Yu's side. Seeing such a big pothole, Charles still felt a little distressed. This is a century-old manor. Although the flowers and plants inside may not be 100 years old, they are still carefully taken care of. Now that a large area has been lost all at once, how can it not make him feel distressed? I didn't expect someone to know his name on this remote planet. Is he really that famous? Said the girl in purple. Your father lived by devouring planets. What about you? What did you come to Earth for? Did you also like Earth? Han Yu said in a low voice, if the other party really has this plan, it might be a bloody battle. A single universe-level god, even Han Yu dare not pretend that he can defeat them, at least the current Han Yu certainly can't. What is the Earth? This is obviously a water polo. When I was in the air, I saw that most of the planet is dominated by oceans, and the land is only 30% at most. It is too shameless for you to call yourself the Earth. The girl in purple clasped her arms around her and said tut-tut. Don't worry about it, just say, are you here to attack the Earth? Han Yu said with a little embarrassment. The next moment, the purple-clothed girl disappeared from everyone's eyes. She came in front of Han Yu with just a blink of an eye. Everyone except Han Yu was startled and subconsciously took a step back. On the other hand, Han Yu frowned slightly, staring at the very beautiful girl in front of him without any fear. Interesting, interesting. I didn't expect someone on this planet to have the courage to face me without being afraid. I'm a little interested in you. The purple-clothed girl suddenly let out a snort and laughed. Her voice was crisp and pleasant, and she looked like a very normal beautiful girl. Seeing that Han Yu and his party were still on guard, she patted Han Yu's shoulder with a big grin and said, Okay, I'm not interested in your planet, don't worry, I'm not my dad, he will eat the whole planet regardless of the life on the planet, I won't, I'm just chasing that dragon. It's just a coincidence that I came to this place. Charles and his party all focused their eyes on Han Yu, wanting to see what he meant. They didn't know how to deal with this kind of alien visitor. So let's see what Han Yu says, and they will do what he says. You came to this planet just to chase food? Han Yu asked. Yes, otherwise. I'll eat people. The purple-clothed girl replied. Hearing this, the corners of Han Yu's mouth curled up slightly, and he had an interesting idea in his mind, and said, why don't you follow me, I'll take care of your meals, how about it? You? Don't be kidding. What I want to eat is not the same as what you want to eat. The energy requirement is huge. If you eat 10 million servings of things like yours, I can't get enough. The girl in purple snorted softly. It is indeed such a reasoning, but Han Yu did not rush to refute it back. He smiled slightly, stretched out his 5 fingers, an array of pink flame rose from his palm. With the other hand, Han Yu kept taking out things from the grocery store system and throwing them into the flames. Sometimes it was strangely shaped herbs, sometimes it was a large piece of golden meat. After a few minutes, he stopped his movements. The flame dissipated, and several round meatballs appeared in his hands, with a scent of green grass and animal meat on the meatballs. Come and try this, you will be satisfied. Chapter 146 Midnight Carnival. Seeing this scene, Charles and his group were a little puzzled. What does it mean? Are you going to drug the other party? It's too blatant, isn't it, refining poison in front of the other party? The girl in purple also had the same idea. She pinched a ball with her green fingers and flipped through it. Except for the smell, she couldn't tell any difference. She said, what do you mean? You'll know when you eat it, don't worry, it's non-toxic and harmless. Han Yu smiled. The girl in purple rolled her eyes and said, I'm sorry you don't dare to play tricks, otherwise you won't be able to survive on this planet. After finishing speaking, the girl in purple flicked her fingers and threw the ball into her mouth. The moment the ball entered, her eyes suddenly narrowed, as if she was feeling the ball. Oh no, no, Han Yu really drugged someone else. Looking at this, it is estimated that the toxicity is very high, everyone is ready to fight. Hey, it's the first time I've seen someone refine poison in front of others, and the other party ate it. The bustling voice behind made Han Yu roll his eyes, saying what he said, but he was not in a hurry to refute but smiled and looked at the girl in purple, waiting for her feedback later. Half a minute later, the purple-clothed girl opened her eyes with excitement in her eyes. She had never eaten such a pure and huge amount of energy. This small ball alone could satisfy her appetite for a month. If it were normal, she would have to catch at least a dozen alien monsters like the extraordinary dragon just now to fill her stomach. Fortunately, the one meatball given by Han Yu is enough for her, and it tastes good. The girl in purple still wanted to reach out to take it, but Han Yu withdrew his hand, and saw him throwing the balls up and down with a smile. How did you think about what you just said? Seeing the balls thrown up and down by Han Yu, the girl in purple hesitated for a moment, pursed her red lips lightly, thought seriously for a while, then nodded, and said, I agree. After finishing speaking, Han Yu gave her the remaining few balls, and the purple-clothed girl happily ate them after taking them. Seeing her eating so deliciously, Han Yu couldn't help but say a monster in his heart, the craftsmanship of these pills is not very sophisticated, it just melts those fairy grass meat pieces, extracts the essence and solidifies them. It is true that the energy contained in it is large, but also because of rough processing, the energy in the ball is very violent, and a bunch of energy is forcibly fused together. This thing can be thrown out and detonated as a small nuclear bomb. But now the purple-clothed girl actually took one bite at a time, so Han Yu said in his heart that she was a monster, and only she could eat this kind of food. Hey, you've eaten enough, my name is Han Yu, won't you tell me your name? Han Yu laughed. The girl in purple who was eating well choked a bit when Han Yu said this, patted her chest and swallowed, and said, my name is Ganada. Han Yu nodded with a smile, turned his head and was about to dismiss everyone, but saw them all looking at him strangely. Why did you look like an enemy just now, but now you're all right? Let's break up, everyone, it's okay. Han Yu said with a smile. Tisk tisk tisk, as expected of you. Charles clicked his tongue a few times, patted Han Yu on the shoulder, then turned his head and left. Just now, he was like an enemy, but now he is a friend? It should be said that as expected of Han Yu, foodies are so easy to handle. Since it's fine, it's time for Charles to worry about how to make up such a big hole in the manor with Eric. Okay, you go in first with me. Since you have agreed to be here, you have to change your clothes, otherwise you will definitely be surrounded by people when you walk on the street. Han Yu walked back with a smile, and Ganada followed behind him, asking him for something to eat as he walked. This snack guy didn't threaten her with any strength, but she had a set of coquettish expressions. Han Yu couldn't stand Ganada's coquettish and refined energy balls for her while walking. In order to increase satiety, Han Yu also added a lot of the energy of the green light, added a few green streaks to the surface. It's a good thing that the energy of the green light is inexhaustible, otherwise the food expenses of this little ant would be such a huge expense. Han Yu complained in his heart. At the beginning, he felt happy because he had a single universe-level god by his side. He had never been so grateful that he had the green light ring, otherwise he would have been holding things from the grocery store all the time. All feel distressed. At night, in order to celebrate the new teachers and students in the school, everyone bought a lot of wine and food, and held a carnival party in the yard. Han! Your ingredients are too good. If you sell them, you will definitely make a lot of money. Charles picked up a skewer of beef on the grill and ate it in one bite. The mellow aroma of the meat and the taste of the ingredients perfectly blended together. The ingredients brought out all the characteristics of the meat, and it was full of fragrance in one bite. As soon as the camera turned, Saitama, King, and Ganada were eating meat skewers madly, even putting more ingredients on the skewers than meat. Han Yu, your cooking is so delicious, I will depend on you from now on. Ganada's voice came, and when she looked at her, this little beauty was actually holding 5 skewers of meat in one hand, and the meat of the skewers was bigger than her face, but she still kept eating each skewer, with that voracious expression. Han Yu looked amused at his appearance. It can be done with food. And Han Yu is afraid that there will be some higher level transactions. How could he think of it with food? The mind of this great god is too simple. Because of Han Yu's cooking, this carnival was originally expected to take 1 or 2 hours, but it was stretched to 4 hours. Even Charles had a good time, and he was afraid that he would not be able to eat such delicacies after that. Han Yu was also happy that his craftsmanship was recognized by others, so he continued to be a chef. Okay, let's bake next, and you can eat some too. Chugzu and King ran up, and the two grabbed Han Yu and wanted him to sit next to him and have a rest. King said with a smile, "You can't let you bake it from start to finish by yourself." "But, haven't you all finished eating? Don't bake more." As he said that, Han Yu turned his head to look at the table, but saw a neat plate of meat skewers there, and he had never eaten it at all. When he looked up, he saw the kind smiles on the faces of other people, and he couldn't help feeling warm in his heart. Qiu smiled and said, "Everyone has reserved for you, come and have a drink, let them roast it." Okay, let's go. Chugzu pushed Han Yu to the table and sat down. As soon as the latter sat down, everyone gathered around. Charles poured Han Yu a glass of wine, then he held up his glass, coughed lightly, and said with a smile, "Come on, let's raise our glasses together. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be together. Let's toast Han Yu with this glass of wine. Come on, cheers." A smile couldn't help appearing on Han Yu's face, and he also raised his wine glass, saying, "Cheers." Chapter 147 The Tensioning Atmosphere. The next day, it was already noon when Han Yu woke up. But he didn't wake up naturally, but because of the urgency to urinate because of drinking too much. "Hiss, I have a headache from drinking too much." Han Yu held his aching head and gasped, "Q and these guys keep pouring me wine, I've never seen anyone who can drink red wine like beer, directly fill a big cup and a big cup." Because of the carnival last night, most people are now sound asleep, only one person is sitting in the hall watching TV with relish. "Aren't you going to sleep?" Han Yu asked. The person watching TV was Ganada. "What do you sleep on? My biological clock is different from that of you people on Earth. I can go without sleep for hundreds of years." At this time, Ganada changed her purple outrageous outfit, wearing a white t-shirt and short jeans, sitting on the sofa with her long white and slender legs. A faint ray of sunlight shines from the window entering, lazily sprinkled on her side face. The picture is so beautiful and peaceful. This scene made Han Yu a little dazed, and once made him look a little dazed, and a sudden ringing of the mobile phone brought Han Yu back to his senses. He picked up the phone and saw that the caller was Stark. As soon as the call was connected, his urgent voice came from the other end. "Han, are you on Earth?" If this question is heard by ordinary people, it must be very speechless. Some people ask if they are at home, and some people ask if they are taking a bath. This is the first time I hear someone asking if they are in the Earth. In fact, it was also because Han Yu often left the Earth to go to other planets or worlds. Stark knew that Han Yu would occasionally go to other planets to do business, so he asked this question. "Yeah, what's the matter, so flustered?" Han Yu frowned, letting Stark call himself and using such a tone. "Something must have happened. An uninvited guest came to me. I couldn't believe what he said, and our Avengers may not be able to solve it. I would like to ask you to help." Stark said. "Who is the unexpected guest?" Han Yu asked. "Sol's brother, Loki." Hearing this name, Han Yu was a little surprised. Loki was a war criminal who invaded the Earth, and he was hostile to the Avengers. Now he actually came to the Avengers, and he was alone. Is Asgard in danger? This was the first thought in Han Yu's mind, and it was also the only possibility that Loki would come to him. If Thor didn't come, and Loki came instead, it meant that Asgard was in danger, and Thor was keeping the other party in check. Let Loki come. After all, this guy always likes to fight physical close combat with full magic points, and the combat effect is not as good as that of an ordinary Asgardian guard, so it is better to let him report. "I see, go over now, where are you?" Han Yu asked. "Avengers Tower, we're all there." "Okay, I'll be there right away." After hanging up the phone, Han Yu stood up and said to Ganada, "I have something to do, I'll go with you." Ganada jumped up from the sofa and said. Looking into Ganada's eyes, Han Yu looked away for some reason, and said, "It's fine, but you have to listen to me and don't run around." "Hey, no problem, I promise to listen to you." Ganada's eyes were narrowed into crescents, very beautiful. After the decision, the two went out, Hanyu waved his hand, and the green light energy poured out from the ring, surrounding them in front of the curious baby Ganada, and the next moment, they shot up into the sky towards the Avengers building direction to fly. Avengers Tower. In the conference room on the top floor, the crowd was divided into two groups, one was the Avengers led by Iron Man Stark, and the other was military personnel. Mr. Rose, I don't think this is the time to arrest Loki. Didn't you hear him say that Asgard is in danger? Now our priority should be to help Asgard get through this dangerous period. At this time, the US team actually stood in front of Loki, which seemed a bit unbelievable. Humph, Rogers, you have to figure it out. The guy standing behind you is a war criminal who invaded New York. Do you think this kind of person should not be handed over to us for trial? Obviously, Asgard didn't give him the right judgment. A middle-aged man with a mustache said that his name was Ross, and he was a lieutenant general of the US Army. After Pierce, who was in charge of SHIELD, was confirmed to be a member of Hydra and was arrested, he is now in charge of SHIELD. I have no intention of defending Loki's behavior. I just think it's not the time. If Asgard is killed, I think it is necessary for us to help. Otherwise, we won't feel good when they are in trouble. Captain America said. When General Ross heard this, his face became a little gloomy. He didn't expect that Captain America would be the first to resist him. Generally speaking, Captain America should be the most obedient among the crowd, but now he actually disobeyed orders, which is very embarrassing. People are surprised. The other members of the Avengers Alliance were also very surprised by the US team who refused so strongly. In their impression, the US team is the kind of honest person who abides by the rules, and would actually make such a move against the command of the chief, making them feel very passionate. Such a captain is also good. Humph, I think you have forgotten your origins. Do you still remember what you did in New York? Your actions without permission caused a lot of loss of lives and property, and now you dare to openly defy me. Order, it seems that you Avengers should also take care of it. General Ross snorted coldly with his hands behind his back. Captain America's disobedience made him a little embarrassed, so he wanted to use this incident to suppress him. Are you embarrassed to say? If we hadn't taken action, New York would have been razed to the ground long ago. It was because of our action that New York was spared. Are you out of your mind? Forgot about your own nuclear bomb launch. Speaking of this, Stark also became angry. When he heard that they had calculated all the property losses in New York to the Avengers, he couldn't sit still and stood up to resist. Indeed, if Stark hadn't stepped forward at that time, New York would have been turned into ruins and deserted, and those alien disasters might not be resolved. In the end, it was Stark who rushed towards the opened wormhole with the nuclear bomb in his arms, and the nuclear bomb bombarded the opponent's mothership, and the matter ended. Now that General Ross didn't mention this matter, and put the blame on them, how could Stark not be angry? Tisk tisk tisk, it's really tense. Chapter 148 Asgard in Distress. A light laugh broke the tense atmosphere here, and everyone turned their heads to look, and saw Hanyu, who hadn't seen him for a while, walking in, accompanied by a beautiful girl of 17 or 18 years old, who was curious. Look around here. Who are you? Irrelevant personnel cannot come in here. Seeing another new face, General Ross said angrily. What's the matter with you? Hanyu rolled his eyes, ignored him, walked straight in, and came to Loki. The latter's face was black and grey, and his clothes were a little damaged. It seemed that he had indeed encountered something. What's going on? What happened in Asgard? You bastard, didn't you hear me talking to you? Idle people are not allowed to enter here. First, Captain America and Stark resisted him, but now an unfamiliar guy came and ignored him, making General Ross lose face, and the people behind him even pointed their guns at Hanyu. Bother! Hanyu didn't turn his head, just said a word, and Ganada standing beside him opened his mouth and made a movement of inhaling. The guns in the hands of the men who held up the guns suddenly dropped their hands. The gun was swallowed by Ganada. Well, it's really unpalatable. Don't bark anymore. If you bark again, I can't guarantee that you will survive. Ganada, a beautiful girl of 17 or 18 years old, squinted her crescent eyes and said this. Even though her voice was cute, but combined with her previous actions, it made everyone else shudder. What kind of person is this? He actually ate those pistols with just one mouthful. Actually ate it. Can you believe it? And she didn't seem to have any discomfort. If it weren't for this move, she would look like an ordinary and beautiful girl. She promised Han Yu that she would work with him. Now that Han Yu is her boss, it is her duty to protect him. Ganada is still clear about this. After Ganada spoke, General Ross felt a lot of stuff in his mouth, and he couldn't say anything when he was exhausted. The opponent's strength was already inhuman. If he insisted on sending him to death and fought hard, the opponent probably wouldn't lose a single hair. Please get out of irrelevant personnel, this is the site of the Avengers. Han Yu said without turning his head, he was found by Iron Man, so he can be here naturally. As soon as these words came out, General Ross and his party became irrelevant people, and they were the ones who broke in without consent. At this time, General Ross recognized that this so-called unfamiliar face was actually the person who solved the incident on Sokovia Island, and was also rumored to be the hidden director of SHIELD. General Ross also asked Nick Fury to verify it after hearing about it, but the latter didn't say anything, saying that it wasn't the case. Han Yu said that he has no interest in managing SHIELD, and he said that he has nothing to do with SHIELD. Although he has authority, he has nothing to do with SHIELD. Han Yu has no interest in SHIELD, and he only needs permission to install System X on S.H.I.E.L.DS satellites to conduct a large-scale search for mutants. To him, SHIELD is just a tool. Humph, remember me. General Ross snorted coldly, and led the people away. After they left, the atmosphere eased a little. Everyone in Fulian looked at the pretty girl next to Han Yu, and they were all a little incredible. People who can follow Han Yu are really extraordinary. After General Ross left, Han Yu looked at Loki and asked, "Now you can explain to me what happened." Loki sighed softly, seeing that he was about to speak. The rest of the Fulian also sat down and listened to him. It's like this. The news of Odin's loss of divine power spread, and other realms began to move around. The Warner Protoss behind us connected the two races of the Frost Giant and the Fire Giant, and launched an attack on us. The loss was heavy. Now there are Vanir Protoss guys all over the periphery of Skard, as well as Frost Giants and Fire Giants. These damned guys actually took the opportunity to invade us. Angry Loki thumped the table heavily, and it was obvious that this guy was showing his true feelings. Although he usually looked like he was always cheating on Thor, he still cared about Asgard. Asgard was actually invaded. What happened to Odin's loss of divine power? Stark asked. In order to save Frigga, that is, me, my mother, he made a deal with Han Yu, and offered to use all his divine power to make the deal. Loki sighed. Odin's days are numbered. It is estimated that it has only been about 10 years, but I think he did the right thing. At least he did one thing that is useful to me. From these words, it can be seen that Loki still has a lot of affection for Frigga, Odin's wife, Thor's mother, and his adoptive mother. Even though he does not admit that he is their child on the surface, but he does so much. Don't you just want to prove that you have the ability, and want to stand shoulder to shoulder with Thor? Han Yu stroked his chin and pondered. He had a little understanding of the Warner Protoss. It is a Protoss led by the god of the sea, Poseidon. Except for another Protoss of the Asgard Protoss, it is only inferior to Asgard in terms of technological force and ranks second in the 9 realms. And has been against Asgard for many years. Thousands of years ago, a world-famous war caused both the Asa Protoss and the Vanir Protoss to suffer losses. The two parties signed a peace treaty as a last resort, and agreed not to invade each other again. Since then, the Vanir Protoss has been hidden in the universe. The recovered Asa Protoss went on to fight in other realms to restore peace to the rest of the war-torn realms. The place where the Asa Protoss was located was also known as the Sanctuary of Asgard and became the head of the 9 realms. But all of this is based on the prestige of Odin. Asgard without Odin is the loss of the biggest pillar supporting the sky. Although Thor and Loki have good combat experience. But if one of them is to succeed Odin and become the God King of Asgard, Thor and Loki are just babies in their infancy, and they are far from reaching this level. If you want to become a king, you can't rely on force alone, and the force of Thor and Loki is not strong enough to deter other realms. The current Thor and Loki have not even reached the level of sub-celestial fathers, so they cannot bear this responsibility at all. The Vanir Protoss also saw this reason and began to attack Asgard. As Asgard, which has supported the Earth, the Avengers originally wanted to help, but with their strength, this level of combat may not be very useful, so Stark contacted Han Yu and asked him for help. Everyone looked at Han Yu, but he said so. The war between the gods, what does it matter to me? Chapter 149 Loki and number 039, S determination. His words are cruel, but they are also true. This is the turn of geomantic omen. When an empire falls, a new empire rises. This is the rule of the world. There are many such countries on the earth. Often a country is overthrown and a new one is established. As a native of Huaxia, Han Yu was very clear about this situation, and it was a familiar scene. Yes, I know, so I want to make a deal with you. Loki gritted his teeth and said. Deal? What deal? Han Yu smiled. If he said that, he could make a move. I'm willing to trade my life for a chance to make Asgard not lose. Loki said with firm eyes. This decision was a very big decision for Rocky. He himself is a person with a high self-esteem, a guy who likes to play tricks to entrap others, and never thinks about who he is going to pay for. Because he feels that his own life is the most important, no matter what happens, he will give priority to protecting himself, and for this reason, he has not cheated Thor a lot. Now that he can actually say this, it shows how determined he is. Han Yu smiled, and said casually, it's very touching, but what's the use of me taking your life? This made Loki ask himself, is he strong? Han Yu has Wanda who is stronger than him. Said he was a prince? If Asgard is destroyed, he is a prince with a fart. Speaking of which, for Han Yu, he is a useless guy. Well, let me show you the way. Seeing Loki's embarrassing look, Han Yu didn't want to make things difficult for him. After all, Loki also made the request for his homeland. This kind of spirit is still rare. Please tell me, Loki said. Join the supreme sanctuary of the earth and protect the earth for 1,000 years. On the one hand, it will pay off your debt for invading the earth, and on the other hand, it will also pay off my debt for helping you solve the Asgard problem. How about it? 1,000 years. If a person on earth heard this, he would be speechless. For people on earth whose lifespan is less than 100 years, 1,000 years is an astronomical figure. 1 or 2 years can make a person have a lot of money change. Now he said 1,000 years, what is the concept? None of the Avengers members present can understand, even the oldest American team can't understand what 1,000 years will be. Loki was a little dazed. 1,000 years is not much, the average lifespan of the Asgardians is about 5,000 years, and Han Yu's lifespan is 1,000 years, which is already 1/5 of their lifespan, definitely not counted. Phew! What he said earlier was that he could give his life to Han Yu, not to mention 1,000 years, 2,000, 3,000 years, he would have to be ordered by Han Yu, and he would not be released until the day he died. Now Han Yu just wants him to protect the earth for 1,000 years. In fact, according to the exchange conditions given by Loki earlier, he can even protect the earth for thousands of years, but Han Yu didn't ask for it, and instead offered to protect the earth for 1,000 years. This is regarded as helping Loki very busy. I, Loki, swear with my own life that if Han Yu can help Asgard survive this catastrophe, I, Loki, will protect the earth without reservation, forever. Loki said very seriously, making him say that shows how dangerous the situation in Asgard is now. Seeing that the other party has sworn, Han Yu will not embarrass him again when he sees that serious expression that he has never seen before, and immediately said, okay, I believe you, I agree. Han, do you need our help? Stark came up and said. No need for now, just keep an eye on the earth. Han Yu said, come on, we have to find someone first, someone who was originally from Asgard. Loki was a little confused, who Han Yu was talking about, what is meant by a person who was originally from Asgard, isn't she in Asgard now? Han Yu took Luoji away, and the Fulian couldn't help him. If they were to follow, someone would definitely become cannon fodder. Night fell. On the way, Han Yu was driving his own car, talking on the phone, and said to Ultron on the other end of the phone, find someone for me, Johnny Blazer, and we'll get it done within 15 seconds. As soon as the words fell, there was a rapid typing on the keyboard on the other end of the phone, and soon Ultron's voice came over, the address has been sent to you. Well, good. After Han Yu finished speaking, he hung up the phone. There was no nonsense during the process, and Ultron didn't ask what happened. If he wants to know, he can hack into the surveillance camera of Fulian building and see what's going on. Han Yu didn't ask him to help, so Ultron just asked. He wouldn't be too busy to ask these questions. If Han Yu needed help, he would definitely come here, but if he didn't say anything, Ultron would just ask. Continued to play his game. After a while, Hanyu, Ganada, and Rocky stood in front of a bar. The appearance of this bar does not look good. Several letters of the light sign beside it have dimmed, and the rest of the letters are also flickering faintly. It seems that it will be scrapped in a second. Here is the person we are looking for. Loki asked. He thought he was some kind of great master, but would a great master be in such a dilapidated bar? Be safe and don't be impatient. Just look at it. Hanyu smiled and opened the door first. Ganada walked in with him without saying anything. Loki struggled a bit, and walked in too. In front of the bar counter, a long-faced man was rummaging through his pockets, as if he was looking for something, and then said to the bartender in front of him with a bitter face, "Jack, you see, I really don't have any money, how about the money for this drink? Johnny, you are also a regular customer. I don't want to embarrass you, but as of today, you owe a total of $470 in wine bills. You can't make it difficult for me. I still have to eat this meal." While the bartender was saying this, several huge men walked up behind the long-faced man, standing behind him from left to right. The long-faced man muttered inwardly. It seemed that it was impossible to walk out so easily tonight. He quietly gripped the chair underneath with his palm, and was about to start a fight when a voice sounded. "I'll give it for him. $470, right? Here's $500. Don't need to change it." Holding a few brand new banknotes in a white hand, he handed them to the bartender. Seeing that someone had paid for the drink for him, the bartender didn't say much, took the money and handed it over to the big men standing behind the long-faced man. With a wink, they walked to the other side. The long-faced man turned his head and saw an Asian face he had never seen before, followed by an unbelievably beautiful young girl, and Loki? Who doesn't know about Loki's invasion of New York, especially the long-faced man? He was surprised to see Loki following behind Hanyu. "Thank you, brother, my name is Johnny, what's your name?" "I know who you are, Johnny Blazer, aka Ghost Rider." Chapter 150 Ghost Rider. Hearing this, Johnny's pupils shrank slightly, he quickly covered it up, and laughed a few times. "What are you talking about? I don't understand. This kind of indifferent pretending to be stupid is quite boring." Hanyu was about to beat him back to his original shape. Just as he was about to do it, the door of the bar was pushed open, and several men with fierce looks walked in. As soon as he entered the bar, he was in the bar. Looking around, it seems to be looking for someone. The man in the lead looked around in the store, and his eyes quickly stopped on Hanyu's side, to be precise, on Johnny. After finding Johnny's figure, they walked over here. "Who are they? They don't look like your friends," Hanyu whispered. There was no response to his words, and when he turned his head, Johnny's expression became serious. It seemed that the appearance of those men made him feel a little bad. In a few steps, those men walked up to Hanyu and the others, and the leading white man bowed slightly to them in a gentlemanly manner, and then said, "Guys, please let me go, we are looking for the brothers behind you. Things need to be discussed." Can make Johnny show this look, the other party is not an ordinary person at a glance. Hanyu turned his head and looked at Johnny, then at the white man, pondered for a moment, and said, "Are you a witch?" Hearing this title, the smile on the white man's face froze, he frowned slightly, and said in a low voice, "Who are you?" Hanyu ignored him, but turned to Johnny and said, "I'll help you get rid of him, and help me find Mephisto, okay?" Whether it was Johnny or the witch heart demon. After hearing Hanyu say this name, the expressions on their faces were obviously stagnant. "The person we are looking for is Mephisto? Do you want to sign a contract with him? I have heard that he is not a good person." Loki was also a little surprised. He heard the name Mephisto from Odin. This is the Lord of Hell. He is in charge of the world where the dead are. He is a very powerful demon. He is famous for capturing souls. He often signs contracts with others, exchange something that the other wants. Odin once said that although this guy is alone, he is powerful. If you can, don't provoke him, it will not end well. Hanyu said, "The person we are looking for is not him. After we find Mephisto, we have to ask him to help us find another person." Loki was a little confused, and didn't understand what Hanyu was talking about. He was already surprised to find Mephisto, but he didn't expect that even Mephisto was a middleman. These guys actually know Mephisto, How is it possible? He is obviously just a native of Earth. Loki asked aloud. He was a little unbelievable, even he had never met Mephisto. Han Yu smiled and said, "Let me introduce, Johnny, signed a contract with the devil with Mephisto, possessed by the spirit of vengeance, and can become a skeleton knight with a head full of flames, Tom's son, useless guy." Hearing Han Yu's introduction to Witch Heart Demon, and stepped on him verbally, Ganada couldn't help but burst out laughing. It was too shameful, but she didn't hate it. Wu Zhenmo's face was a bit ugly. He was insulted by someone he didn't know when they met for the first time. How could he bear it? He said to his companions, "Clean up the scene." After all, the big guys around him threw all the guests out of the bar, even the bartender and the security guard in the bar. If someone wanted to resist, those big guys would just punch them dumbfounded up. Realizing that they couldn't beat the opponent at all, those people ran away quickly, and now only Johnny, Han Yu and his party, and Wu Zhenmo's party were left in the bar. "Can you call your father out for me? If you can't, just get out. I'm too lazy to waste time with you." Han Yu frowned slightly and said impatiently. How could it be possible for Wu Zhenmo's haughty temper to be spoken to by a person he had never seen before? He raised his hand, and the tables and chairs around him floated into the air and smashed towards Han Yu. Han Yu didn't move at all, relying on his powerful mental strength. He was able to bounce off the oncoming tables and chairs, but he accidentally hit Johnny with his hand, and the latter was knocked away by the powerful counter-shock force. He went out and hit the wall, and the stone brick hit him all over. "Han, it's okay, no matter how he looks at it, he is from Earth." Rocky felt a little bad, and went forward to check Johnny's problem, but was stopped by Han Yu. Han Yu narrowed his eyes, looked at the broken wall bricks in front of him, and said, "It's true that he is from Earth, but he is the one who signed a contract with Mephisto, allowing him to control Hellfire. Isn't he a simple guy?" After he finished speaking, there was a little bit of fire in the pile of wall bricks on the ground, and then Johnny stood up from it. At this time, the muscles on his face began to burn, and the flames seeping from the bones wiped out his skin burned, and Johnny let out a low growl of pain. Seeing this scene, Ganada curled her lips in disgust, and turned her head to avoid seeing the scene that made her sick. In just half a minute, Johnny's head turned into a skull wrapped in flames, which looked very grotesque. "This is Johnny's transformed state, Ghost Rider." "Ah, I'm sorry, I was careless," Han Yu said with apology and a little embarrassment. Johnny stared at Han Yu with red eyes, then turned to Witch Heart Demon, and said in a deep voice, "I'm fine, let's deal with him first. If you help me deal with him, I'll take you to find Mephisto." Hearing this, the corner of Han Yu's mouth twitched, and he said, "Isn't it easy to get him done?" After finishing speaking, he stretched out his hand towards Wu Zhenmo, gathered his 5 fingers together, and saw that Wu Zhenmo suddenly had an extremely painful expression on his face. The Witch Heart Demon's accomplices also wanted to attack when they saw the other party making a move. Ganada glanced at them casually, and a pressure that oppressed them made them unable to move. Loki raised his eyebrows, said "Oh" in his heart, and muttered, "This girl is amazing, she can frighten the other party without making a move." There are all kinds of monsters around Han Yu. Ganada's eyes moved slightly, and several big men seemed to be slapped by an invisible palm, and they flew directly to the wall next to them. At the same time, she turned her head to stare at Loki, and said with a half-smile, "I am demons and ghosts." Seeing his eyes looking at him, Loki shivered, smiled awkwardly, and said, "No, no, I am a monster." Hearing this, Ganada snorted softly and ignored him, which made Loki heave a sigh of relief. There is no normal person around Han Yu. Chapter 151 A Day Trip to Hell. This time he learned to be smart, he said in his mind, Ganada must not be able to hear, right? Just when Loki thought so, Ganada glanced at him with a smile that was not a smile. The expression on her pretty face was not threatening, but it was also full of deterrence. This glance made Loki tremble again, shaking quickly. Shaking his head, he didn't even dare to think about it. Ganada snorted softly, and turned her gaze back to Han Yu. "A guy like Mephisto who has no feelings, I crushed his son to death, and he can still make it, so I can only wrong you and die first." Han Yu's chuckling voice sounded, and in the next second, Wu Zhenmo felt a huge pressure from all around him, and traces of green energy emerged around him, turning into a ball to cover him, and is constantly shrinking. The Witch Heart Demon wanted to use his soul state to escape, but as soon as he got out of his body fell to the ground, and his soul was still trapped by the green ball cover, and he couldn't fly out at all. What the hell is this? Let me out! The witch heart demon was impotent and furious inside the ball cover, slapping the wall of the ball frantically. Han Yu outside still looked at him with a smile on his face, unmoved. With the curling of his fingers, the spherical cover became smaller and smaller, until Han Yu clenched his fists with 5 fingers, and the witch heart demon completely turned into a ball. Han Yu stretched out his hand, fetched the ball from the air, threw it up and down, and quite heard the screams of the witch heart demon inside, but because of the smaller size, his voice also became smaller and sharper, just it's like a voice-changing toy with the minimum volume turned on. Han Yu threw the ball to Johnny and said, "He's not completely dead. If you let it out and absorb the souls of a few people, you'll come back to life. Roast him with your hellfire, he won't survive once you roast him." The flame on Johnny's face was a little weak, which represented his expression. He was a little dazed, and this punished the witch heart demon? He has been fighting the witch heart demon for more than a month, and he knows the strength of the latter. He is definitely not an ordinary person, and now he is sealed by Han Yu casually. This is not because the witch heart demon is too weak, but because Han Yu is too strong, too strong. Johnny got the energy ball containing the soul of the witch heart demon without much hesitation. The flames of hell rose from his hand, enveloping the energy ball instantly, and the witch heart demon cried out in pain. In 10 seconds, the witch heart demon vanished into thin air, completely dead. Afterwards, Johnny was still a little overwhelmed. The solution was too easy. If he was allowed to do it by himself, he would have to fight hard, otherwise he wouldn't be able to be touched at all. "Please help me open the gate of hell, and help me find Mephisto." Han Yu smiled. The expression on his face has been a faint smile from the beginning to now. To have such an expression, he is either stupid or confident. Obviously, he is the latter. Johnny no longer struggled. He saw the strength gap between the two sides, and opening the door honestly was his best choice now. He has only possessed this ability for less than 3 months, and it is impossible for him to compete with Han Yu. If he has fully mastered the ability of Ghost Rider, he may be able to fight Han Yu a few times, but now he obviously can't. "What are you looking for with Mephisto? That guy is old and cunning. He is not a good guy. Talking to him will definitely end badly." Johnny waved his hand, and the flames of hell turned into a rectangular object in front of them. He erased the flames in the middle, and a blood-red dry wooden door suddenly appeared there, which was the hell door leading to hell. Find someone who can solve the Asgard problem," Han Yu said. Luoji couldn't help but looked at Han Yu a few times. He didn't ask who he was looking for on the way, but Han Yu didn't say anything at all. "Then I can only wish you luck." Before Johnny finished speaking, Ganada reached out and grabbed his neck, dragging him directly to push the door open. "What kind of wishes? You have to lead us." Han Yu smiled and shook his head. Ganada saved Han Yu a lot of tongues. If he needed his help, the latter helped him drag Johnny in. "Let's go." Han Yu patted Loki's shoulder and walked into the gate of hell. Loki hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth, and followed in. In the bar, calm was restored. If it was the debris from that place, I really couldn't see the short battle that happened just now. The place where the few people reappeared was a desolate and dilapidated city. The sky in the city was dark and scarlet. From time to time, a blackbird could be seen flying in the distance. If you look carefully, it was a group of skeleton birds with only white bones. The surrounding area was very quiet, and from time to time there was a shrill roar in the distance, which reached the ears of Han Yu and the others from a very far distance, and finally turned into a slight roar. Faintly discernible. "Is this hell? It's the first time I've come here. It really looks dilapidated. You said that Mephisto is a good hell lord. Why don't you make hell look better?" Ganada said with some disgust. Han Yu and Luoji looked around them with great interest. Seeing their expressions, they were quite curious about the environment of hell. The two hit it off immediately and went straight to catch ghosts. Johnny shook his head helplessly. It was the first time he saw someone coming to hell who could make such serious complaints about the setting of hell. Whoever came here was not screaming and terrified, but looking up, Ganada yawning boredly there. Han Yu and Luoji were ghosts with each hand. The scary little ghost that would make others pee when they saw it was like a toy in the hands of Han Yu and his wife. "Why do I feel that you are here for tourism?" Johnny felt a little helpless. This is hell after all, and you all should be a little bit scared. Respect this hell? Well, it looks like you are here for tourism. After playing for 10 minutes, Hanyu casually threw away the screaming ghost in his hand, and said to Johnny, "Okay, we've had enough fun, we have to get down to business." Johnny sighed and nodded. He waved his hand, and in the distance was a motorcycle burning with flames. This was his chariot. He glanced at Hanyu and the others who were empty-handed, and said, "Are you going to run there? It's quite far away." "Of course you pulled us, we just wait at the back and arrive at the station." Hanyu raised his right hand with a smile, and the energy in the green light ring surged out. Behind Johnny's motorcycle, a section of carriage was transformed, which was connected with his motorcycle. Hanyu and the others got into that carriage. "Let's go." This one-handed operation made Johnny look stupid. Can there be such a way of playing? Chapter 152 Odin and number 039, S Executor. He looked around the carriage at the back. This was exactly the appearance of an ordinary green leather train, except for the fluorescent green as a whole, there was nothing unusual about it. I reached out and knocked, and the sound was that of a tin car. It's amazing, it's the first time I've seen someone ride a car in this way. Johnny exclaimed, Hanyu's hand is unique in the Marvel world, not everyone can materialize energy like him, even the God King Odin has to use tools to use his divine power. Just because in the setting of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, God King Odin and the people of Asgard are ultra-high-tech aliens, but with the current technology of the Earth people, they cannot produce that level of technology, so it is not bad to worship it as a god. Modern people take a lighter and travel to the Stone Age, and they are no different from gods. Okay, don't look, let's go. Hanyu urged. Johnny responded, got on his motorcycle, started the engine, and set off. He had no choice but to promise that the other party would help find Mephisto. He felt that it was impossible to run now. The strength of Hanyu and Gonita has completely exceeded the range that Johnny can handle. It is the best choice for him to be a driver honestly now, and he will not be stubborn. There is already an example of the Witch Heart Demon. This guy who has fought fiercely with Johnny for a month, if it is placed in the Avengers, it will also be a good combat power. He was killed in seconds. Johnny wouldn't be ignorant and stubborn, and the other party didn't come to find fault with him, so there was no need for him to feel uncomfortable. Inside the car, Loki asked Hanyu, can you tell me now, who exactly are we looking for? Don't be a fool, I'm so anxious. Loki has been thinking all the way, who is Hanyu looking for? He said before that it was Asgardian, and he also said she, a woman, but Loki couldn't think of anyone else who could help Asgard at times like this. Hanyu pondered for a moment, and said, I originally wanted time to develop this matter naturally. Originally, Asgard would suffer a 1,000-year catastrophe called Twilight of the Gods, and this person can only be destroyed by Twilight of the Gods. She. Twilight of the Gods? I've heard of this. Isn't this the catastrophe that could destroy Asgard? Who is this person you're talking about? Could it be Surtur? Loki asked puzzled, and he continued, no, according to the records of Asgard, the dusk of the gods was caused by Surtur, and the record said that when Surtur's great sword pierced Asgard, there will be destruction. But now that Surtur has colluded with the Frost Giants and the Vanir Protoss, and is about to destroy Asgard, we actually want to speed up the twilight of the gods to let them destroy Asgard. Loki's mood swings are a bit big, and he feels cheated. Surtur in his mouth is the leader of the fire giant. He has no entity and only has a crown. When his crown is placed in the eternal fire contained in the treasury of Asgard, he who absorbs this flame, it will become eternal and immortal like the name of the flame. And the source of his power is also because of this eternal fire. Don't worry, I haven't finished yet. Hanyuxu pressed his palms to signal Loki to calm down. The latter also realized that he was a little anxious, so he nodded apologetically and asked Hanyu to continue. Thousands of years ago, when Odin was still fighting in other worlds, he didn't lead the whole team alone. There was a capable general beside him. Her power was second only to Odin, and she was Odin's executioner. Officer. Hanyu said. Odin's executive officer? Neither Thor nor I have heard of it. Loki touched his chin, he didn't remember this person. Hanyu went on to say, it's normal that you haven't heard of it, because you were not born at that time, and your birth may still be hundreds of years later. At that time, the 9 realms were unified. The disobedient ones will be probated, but his executive officer doesn't think so, but wants to fight, use force to solve those disobedient people, and make the 9 realms slaves of Asgard. Hanyu paused, and after half a minute of digesting for Loki, he continued. It was also because the executive officer was too ambitious. Odin thought that she would not kill her because of her outstanding military exploits, so he exiled her to hell and would never come out. At this point, Loki nodded and asked, but she has been imprisoned for so long, how could she still manage Asgard? I think the first thing she did when she came out was to destroy Asgard. Hanyu smiled and said, you're not completely wrong. If she comes out, she will surely disrupt Asgard, but she will definitely not destroy Asgard. Why? Loki asked. Because she is Odin's first child, the eldest daughter, and also the sister of you and Thor. Loki's eyes widened. Sister? He had never heard that he had a sister. And Saul certainly didn't know about it either. With his tiger personality, it was impossible to hide such things. Is what you said true? Loki's voice trembled a little. He and Thor had an older sister, and that older sister was once Odin's executive officer. Every generation of god kings will have a direct executive officer, which is a position below one person and above 10,000 people. It is very strange that Odin has not had an executive officer around him. He and Thor also asked Odin this question, but the latter was either silent or staring at the sky. At that time, they thought they couldn't find a suitable candidate, but now they understand that it's not that they couldn't find a suitable candidate, but that they already had one. It's just that the executive officer was sent to hell by Odin himself, and he can never be seen again. Come up. Of course it is true. Otherwise, what am I doing in hell? Her strength is very strong. Now, with her strength, it is no problem to become the god king of Asgard, because the energy comes from Asgard. As long as Asgard is not destroyed, she can have a steady stream of power, which is very powerful. Hanyu said so. Loki nodded silently. He massaged his swollen temples, digested what Hanyu said for a while, and then asked, the executive officer, what's the name of my sister and souls? Hela, goddess of death, Hela. Hanyu said. As soon as he said the name, the carriage braked visibly, and several people almost slipped out of the seats. At the same time, Johnny's voice came from outside. The person you are looking for is actually Hela. Chapter 153 Speed. Hanyu rolled down the window and asked Johnny, who was driving in front, why, you also know? I know it all too well. Johnny said. For some reason, there was a tone of admiration in his words. Then why don't you tell us? Hanyu smiled. Judging from Johnny's tone, it seems that Hela has not been idle in hell during this time. In this hell, everyone knows that Mephisto cannot be messed with, but there is another existence that cannot be messed with, and that is Hela, who is known as the goddess of death. Johnny said. Yo, she's doing well. Hanyu teased. It's more than good. Johnny shook his head and said to the car while driving, her father is God King Odin, and her power still comes from Asgard. Asgard is immortal, her power is also, it will continue to flow, and although she is not in Asgard now, her strength is estimated to have dropped to only 1/3 of her original strength, but it is still enough for her to dominate in hell. Speaking of this, Johnny's words suddenly brought a little smile, that old devil Mephisto has made Hela's idea more than once, and wants to be with her. This was a bit unexpected, Hanyu said, Mephisto will also have this demand. He didn't say it clearly, but both Johnny and Loki knew what Hanyu was talking about. Only Ganada blinked her eyes because she didn't understand. It's impossible for Ganada to know this kind of knowledge, but she can't turn the corner. Indistinctly, Hanyu took Johnny and Rocky and started the car, but Ganada was still standing still, for no apparent reason. Johnny laughed a few times, and said, that's not true, it's because he thinks that if he can combine with Hela, the child they will give birth to must be the most powerful demon god, so this guy has been pestering Hela all the time. Hanyu shook his head with a smile. And said, it's no wonder that Hela agrees. Isn't this just treating her as a reproductive machine, but Hela is so weak now, he won't force it. Hey, how dare he is the great demon who rules hell. It is true that Hela is in exile, but Odin didn't kill her, it means that Odin is still standing behind her, Odin's eldest daughter. Mephisto doesn't dare to fight Odin head-on. In hell, he is the only one who is strong. The other brats can't even beat me. If we start a war with Odin, Mephisto can run, but this hell is probably the worst. Without the energy impact of the Rainbow Bridge in Asgard, it will definitely be Mephisto who will lose the most. Johnny complained about Mephisto mercilessly. The two of them were not in a subordinate relationship. Johnny's character would not be submissive to him. Han Yu couldn't help laughing. It was the first time he talked about gossip about a god of this level, and it was much more exciting than the gossip between ordinary people. After all, these are gods who move their feet and shake the earth 3 times. Gossiping about them is so interesting. What are you guys talking about? Afterwards, the more I listen, the less I understand. Ganada pouted, and said a little angrily. The feeling of being excluded is not good. Haha, I'm sorry, kids, don't worry about this. Han Yu smiled and patted Ganada's head lightly, and said with a smile. Yes, children, don't. Loki also wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to take advantage of his age. He just raised his hand to pat Ganada's head, but he raised his hand halfway, but the latter's eyes suddenly became sharp, and he grabbed Loki with a backhand. On the window of the car, Han Yu shouted awesome. They take care of my food and drink, and it's fine to call me a kid. What did you want to do just now? Ganada said that her sweet words reached Loki's ears, but they were like whispers of demons. It's wrong, sister, I'm just kidding, so it won't happen. Loki felt that the strength in Ganada's hand was getting stronger and stronger. Although he felt that the latter would not really do anything to him, he felt that Ganada could still do it with a small injury. Having suffered from Ganada one after another, Loki dare not mess with her now, it's too cruel. Humph. Ganada let go of Loki, clapped her hands, and moved towards Han Yu, obviously not wanting to get close to Loki. Loki rubbed his shoulders in pain, and looked at Ganada who leaned against Han Yu and had a happy talk with him. He rarely envied Han Yu, and said in his heart, you are so popular, you can do it anytime. There are such good-looking and powerful girls around me. In the following time, Han Yu chatted with Johnny, mostly gossip about Mephisto. This guy Johnny was also very enthusiastic, and broke all the gossip he knew to Han Yu. A great demon from hell, a mysterious and terrifying existence, has now become a gossip star with a lot of gossip in the mouths of Han Yu and Johnny. Talk slowly. After chatting for nearly half an hour, the speed of the car also slowed down. Before arriving at the destination, Han Yu and the others saw a very large western castle from a long distance, entrenched on the ground like a wild ancient beast. Dark. The tone of this castle is gloomy and gloomy. Just from the outside, it can be seen that this is not a place for ordinary people to live in. The car drove to the gate of the castle. And drove towards the gate of the castle. 2 men in black with thin faces and red skin stood on both sides of the gate. When they saw the approaching vehicles, they stretched out their hands to stop them. Seeing that it was Johnny, one of the gatekeepers was a little surprised, and said in a hoarse voice, Johnny, why are you here if you don't stay in the world? Someone wants to see Mephisto, I'm just a guide. Johnny shrugged and said. The 2 gatekeepers looked back and were surprised to see that the motorcycle was actually pulling a train carriage. Who's up there? Asked another gatekeeper. Yes, hey, by the way, I don't know what your names are. Johnny suddenly remembered that he didn't even know Han Yu's name. My name is Han Yu, her name is Ganada, you have known Loki for a long time. Han Yu's voice came. Hearing this, Johnny nodded self-consciously, then looked at the 2 gatekeepers, and said, you heard me, these are 2 great gods that I can't help, they insist on seeing Mephisto, I can't stop it, if you think you can do it, then you come. These 2 gatekeepers have met Johnny a few times. Even they should pay attention to this man who has a spirit of vengeance called Ghost Rider. After all, not everyone can have the fire of hell. Then go in. The gatekeeper opened the gate and let them through. Chapter 154 Mephisto. Passing through the city gate, Han Yu and the others were stunned by the scene inside. Compared with the dilapidated and barren outside, the design inside is too normal, and the painting style inside is not at the same level as the outside. The sky outside is scarlet, but the inside is full of singing birds and fragrant flowers. It looks like the world. Those who don't know it think they have traveled back to the earth. Mephisto is quite good at living. The design is not bad. The Eastern European style is much better than I imagined. Han Yu nodded frequently. Johnny explained, Hela and Mephisto can afford to live in this kind of place in hell. Look at the many flowers and plants here. There is no life in hell, but flowers and plants are also life. This is a natural growth, and it is also a bloody investment. Loki also looked around curiously, and said, I thought the guys from hell lived in those eerie places. That is indeed the prejudice of most people in the world towards hell, thinking that hell is terrifying. In fact, the only places that are scary are those places of execution, such as the 18 hells, but other places are basically desolate. After all, no one will go to hell and continue to build. Johnny smiled and said, this is why people are always afraid when talking about hell, because the guys in hell all talk about freedom. No one will change the environment of hell, they are all working hard to become stronger. In hell, the class division is more obvious. A strong soul can rule hundreds of weak souls and be driven by it for decades or even hundreds of years. Let's go, the gatekeeper let us in so easily, it must be Mephisto who knew we were coming, otherwise we wouldn't be able to come in so easily. Johnny said. Hanyu was not surprised at this point. The other party was a great demon. If he didn't know that people like himself had entered hell, he would be a big demon for nothing. They walked forward openly. If Mephisto didn't know, Hanyu would just come in and take Hela away. The reason why he came in so solemnly was because he didn't want to have any trouble with Mephisto. Although he was not afraid of him at all, if he messed up the world, it would still affect Hanyu. After all, there are too many players in the GDA game. If Mephisto messes with the players and causes accidents to the players, it will still hurt Hanyu a little bit. Approaching the castle, a man who looked like a butler was already standing at the door waiting. Seeing Hanyu and the others coming, the butler bowed to them and said politely, Mr. Johnny, Mr. Hanyu, welcome here, please come in. The man's skin was red, his eyes were pure black, and his ears were slightly pointed. He also looked like a demon. Hey, Sebastian, long time no see, how are you doing? Johnny greeted the butler named Sebastian. It seemed that the two had known each other for a while. Thanks to your care, I'm fine. The butler said, neither humble nor overbearing. This is Mephisto's direct confidant. He is not weak in hell. If he goes to the human world, he may easily defeat the Avengers except Thor and Hulk. In hell, not everyone can be called a demon. Others can only be regarded as little ghosts. Only people like the housekeeper Sebastian can call themselves demons. After a simple greeting, Johnny led Hanyu and the others in. The door didn't need to be pushed by them. As they stepped in, the door opened. The first time after entering the door, Hanyu's eyes stopped on the huge staircase directly in front of the hall. At this time, a man was standing on it, looking at them with a smile on his face. The man's apparent age was about 30 years old, with black hair and a black robe. His skin was red with irregular lines all over his body. His eyes were not black, but pure white. In terms of facial features alone, he looks passable, but his eyes and skin color are too unacceptable. He is the Lord of Hell, the great demon, Mephisto. Mr. Han, you are a guest from afar, please come in. Seeing Hanyu and the others standing at the door, Mephisto smiled. Oh, are you Mephisto? Seeing is better than hearing 100 times. Hanyu laughed. He didn't feel any discomfort, and stared straight into Mephisto's eyes. The latter was a little surprised by his calm and easy movements. My own eyes have the effect of demagogy, just one look can make people fall into the endless abyss, and ordinary people can't wake up by themselves. Now he and Hanyu are looking at each other, the latter's eyes are still clear without any change. Mr. Han's mental strength is very strong. He is indeed a person who is willing to bow down to Odin. Mephisto smiled, showing his pale teeth, and said, this is not suitable for talking, let's talk in the room bar. Several people came to a room, and the butler Sebastian had already appeared there, making tea for everyone. When he saw a few people coming in, he picked up the tray and stood quietly aside, waiting for Mephisto's order. Mephisto went to the chief seat and sat down, took a sip of the tea from the porcelain teacup, and said, I know the purpose of your coming, to take Hela out. Since you are already in the state, it just saves me to say more, just make an offer, and how can you let her out? Hanyu said with his legs crossed. Oh, it's interesting for you to say that. Why did I let her go out? It was Odin who exiled her, and I didn't exile her. Mephisto looked at the slightly swaying tea leaves in the teacup, his eyes fluctuated because of Hanyu's words, and the corners of his mouth curled up in an imperceptible arc. Hela was exiled by Odin. In fact, as long as Odin loses his divine power, nothing can imprison Hela, and she can return to Asgard at any time. Let's stop playing around in circles. It's impossible for you not to know about Odin's loss of divine power. It's precisely because of this that you trapped Hela and prevented her from returning to Asgard. Am I right? Hanyu smiled and said, All this is based on his own judgment. Because he came with the memory of his previous life. In Han Yu's memory, when Odin died, Hela immediately appeared on the earth. This shows that Hela's trapping is directly related to Odin's divine power. Now that Odin's divine power has long been lost, it is tantamount to death, but Hela has not returned to Asgard for a long time. Han Yu speculates that something must have happened to her in Hell, otherwise how could she have not returned to Asgard until now? And after listening to the gossip with Ghost Rider Johnny, Han Yu had a clue as to why Hela didn't go back. It was because this guy took a fancy to Hela and knew that Odin's loss of divine power would not cause any harm to him, so he trapped Hela here. Why do I feel like Zhu Beiji forced a marriage in jail as Wang? Chapter 155 Making friends is like a deal. Mephisto didn't hear clearly. What did you say? Han Yu shook his head slightly, and said, it's okay, let's get to the point, I don't want to talk nonsense with you, so, what can you do to let Hela go? Mephisto's dark and pointed nails gently scratched the cup, and the sound made people shudder. His eyes flickered, and he said, you killed my child in the world, come to me for help now, isn't it okay, too suitable? What's inappropriate? People like you still care about that? Han Yu pursed his lips and smiled lightly. Hehe, I think Mr. Han may have misunderstood, but that is my own flesh and blood. Mephisto paused for a moment, not knowing what he was thinking, and the next moment, he saw him and said, I need to pay more. Han Yu rolled his eyes, and said so much, but the money is not enough, then you should have said no, what about your own flesh and blood, Mephisto, a big devil who has no emotions and desires, would care about this? Moreover, this so-called biological flesh and blood was probably condensed by him in some unknown way. Unlike human children, Mephisto's children are basically produced by him, which can be regarded as hermaphrodites. It is also because of this that he can see the upper limit of the child's ability at a glance, which makes it less fun. So he fell in love with Hela. If Mephisto and Hela had a child, it would definitely be another big devil. You know, in the entire 9 realms, there is only one great demon, Mephisto, who can rule the entire hell. If there is another one, the world will not be spared. What do you want, tell me? Han Yu said lightly, without any fluctuations on his face. Seeing his natural expression, Loki's still somewhat impatient mood suddenly calmed down a lot. When Han Yu helped Thor before, he felt that this human youth was a lot stronger when he was watching from the side, and he always wondered if he could mix with him. But because of Odin's loss of divine power, Loki had to stay in Asgard. Although he was usually rebellious, he still had a lot of affection for the place where he grew up. He is of the blood of the frost giants, but he has long thought that he is an Asgardian in his bones, and he cares about Asgard. He usually says he hates it, but it is just a hard mouth. Hey, Asgard should be saved. Loki breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, but didn't show it on the surface. During the negotiation, if one party is grateful for the conditions proposed by the other party first, or even breathes a sigh of relief, it means that the conditions can be tolerated by one side, and there may still be a lot of things left for trading. At this time, the other party is likely to change their minds temporarily and raise the price, and the original advantage becomes disadvantageous. Rocky still has this point, so he is just secretly happy. They shouldn't fight, right? Loki murmured in his heart. Mephisto is an existence with power over the world in hell. Even if he stands in the 9 realms, he is one of the best transcendent combat powers, and Han Yu's strength is definitely stronger than him. Not to mention how much stronger, it is certain that he will not lose. Loki still has this bit of confidence, otherwise he wouldn't have come to hell with him so easily. Both of them are existences that can dominate the world. If they fight, this little hell is not enough for them to stretch their feet. At this moment, Mephisto didn't know what Loki was thinking. He didn't reply immediately, but looked at Han Yu for a moment, and then turned to the people behind him. Johnny, this man of mine, why did he stand by the other side? Loki. Son of Odin, well, it's of no use to me. Hey, this girl, why is she here? Mephisto's eyes stopped on Ganada. This girl was both unfamiliar and familiar. She seemed to have met once thousands of years ago. At that time, Mephisto was just a little devil, but Ganada had already. It's amazing, seeing her standing behind Han Yu now. Interesting, really interesting. The people around this guy are all amazing, Ultron, Kuei Yin, Wanda, and now even Ganada is by his side. Mephisto murmured in his heart, his eyes flickering slightly. Did this guy recognize Ganada? Han Yu noticed the movement of his eyes, and he probably recognized Ganada, but he didn't say anything. If the other party offered to ask Ganada in exchange, Han Yu would flip the table before she could speak. After a cup of tea, Mephisto also spoke, "Well, I don't want you, I just want to make friends, how about it?" Hearing that Mephisto made this request, Johnny was the one who was most surprised. Mephisto, an old guy, said that he was bad. Things only he himself knows. Such a big devil offered to make friends, which made people afraid that he would suddenly stab himself in the back. Mephisto belonged to the kind of existence that didn't want to offend or make friends, the farther away the better. That's it. That's it. Make a deal. Han Yu and Mephisto shook hands. They said they were friends, but no matter how they looked at it, it looked like a transaction. The reason why Mephisto wants to make friends with Han Yu is because the people around him are too powerful, even an existence like Ganada is by his side, this is the daughter of Galactus. In front of Galactus, Mephisto is also a younger brother, not to mention Galactus, even Ganada, he may not be able to beat him. Being able to make friends with such a person will definitely benefit me a lot in the future. This is Mephisto's consideration, which is very realistic, but in the adult world, who is not for the benefit? Let's go, take me to meet Hela. Han Yu stood up and said. Mephisto nodded and said, "Okay, let's go now, Sebastian, prepare the car, and go find Hela." Soon, the butler drove a car, which was a stretched luxury car. Looking at this luxury car, Han Yu smiled at Mephisto, "You have a taste, and you can drive this kind of luxury car in hell. The taste of life can't be bad." Mephisto smiled and got into the car first. After Han Yu got up, the others also got into the car. As soon as the engine was started, the wheels of this extended luxury car were like Johnny's motorcycle, burning raging fire. Don't think about it, it must be the fire of hell. After the car started, it disappeared instantly like an arrow leaving the string, leaving only a faint trace of the flame tire in midair. The car drove extremely fast, but within 5 minutes, the speed slowed down. "That's it, so fast," Loki said with some surprise, "you still have to drive for such a short distance." Chapter 156. Sebastian, the housekeeper and driver, said, "It's not that the distance is short, it's because of the speed of this car that we can reach the destination within 5 minutes. Hearing this, Loki rolled his eyes around, looked out of the window, and said, "Ahem, the weather is really nice today." The sky outside the car window was scarlet, and the weather was a ghost. Han Yu shook his head helplessly, ignoring Loki who used such a lame excuse to change the subject, looked at the car window on the other side, and was suddenly taken aback. "Why do I feel like I saw a replica of Asgard's sanctuary?" The building that appeared in front of them was similar to Asgard's circular tube building from low to high, except that there were many spikes protruding from it, and it was not the golden color of Asgard. Mainly green, very personal taste. Hela still seems to care about Asgard, otherwise the building would not be designed like this. Loki said, this is the first time he has seen the main hall of Asgard in this style. Han Yu and the others, including Mephisto, nodded. She was exiled here, and the building she lived in can still be made like the main hall of Asgard, which shows her affection for Asgard. How deep? Han Yu stared at this huge building, raised his eyebrows, and said slowly, she was exiled here not because she did anything harmful to Asgard, but what she wanted to do was to let Asgard is more powerful, but it would be too harmful to people of other races in the universe, otherwise Odin would not choose to exile her here instead of directly executing her. These words are embarrassing. The best way to govern the country is to maintain a benevolent government after the use of force. Otherwise, there will be frequent wars, and the people will not stand it. Okay, I'll wait for you in the car, I don't want to go in. Johnny said, looking at him, he was a little scared of Hela. What's the matter with you? Han Yu asked, it's all at the door, so you're scared. Johnny turned his head away from looking at Han Yu, and said to himself, that female devil is terrifying, she wants to get the hellfire on me all day long, in her eyes, I am just a walking charger, I don't want to see her. Mephisto nodded, that was indeed the case. He also said that as long as Hela opens her mouth, the fire of hell is enough, but the latter refuses, and she insists on robbing others. Johnny can't fight again and again. Although Hela is only 1/3 of her original strength, she has reached the level of an ordinary god. It is easy for her to blast dozens of tons of strength with one punch. Thing. Hela's identity, Johnny also knew, Odin's eldest daughter, who would dare to fight with real swords and guns. If Odin was offended, Mephisto might not be able to keep Johnny. Odin was able to conquer the 9 realms not because of Asgard, but because he conquered the 9 realms and unified the 9 realms, which gave Asgard such a reputation. Let's go and see first, I can't wait. Loki got out of the car first. Since he learned about this sister until now, he has been suppressing his curiosity. Thor had previously applied to Odin for the position of his executive officer, and the latter said that there had always been someone in this position, but no matter whether Thor or Loki asked, Odin didn't say anything, which made them very puzzled. Now it seems that Loki understood what Odin meant at that time. Although he exiled Hela, he still regarded her as his executive officer. This position has always been hers, so he hopes that his daughter when can you let go of your killing intent. Several people got out of the car, and as soon as they walked to the door of the main hall, before they opened the door, they heard an angry voice coming from all directions. Mephisto, I told you not to step within 100 miles of me. Are you idle and looking for a fight? This was not polite at all, and it was said to Mephisto. When the kid around heard this, they hid one after another. They knew that if Mephisto didn't leave at this time, Hela would really they will come out and flatten him without hesitation. Although the current Hela can't beat Mephisto, it doesn't affect her temper. Hanyu didn't speak, just stood there and looked at Mephisto. The latter was startled, and quickly said, My good brother, why don't you speak, I'm here with you. Mephisto was a little flustered. The current situation is that Hanyu came to Hela. Although he didn't know what the result would be, he was doing Asgard a favor, so he was standing behind Hela. It is also impossible for him to really attack Hela. If Hanyu is offended, Mephisto may not end well. In fact, this is also the case. Hanyu's own immortal seal provides him with a god level greater than or equal to the Heavenly Father level, plus other weapons, such as Bing Lunwan and Haoshan Hammer. Hanyu is among the Heavenly Father level gods. Is the existence of the top powerhouse. Not long after the words fell, a sound of sonic boom came from the bottom of the building. When they looked up, they saw a woman holding 2 long swords and came out directly. The woman was wearing a dark green and black tight-fitting leather jacket, which accentuated her figure to the fullest, and the black eye makeup in the eye sockets made her a little more sinister. But in a few breaths, she came in front of a few people, and seeing that so many people came this time, Hela said with a sullen face, Why, Mephisto, finally I can't hold back your ugly temper. Are you going to come by force and bring so many people? Mephisto was a little embarrassed when he was said, he is the great devil of the Hell Lord, he was said to be like a rogue pervert in Hela. He smiled embarrassingly, and said, It has nothing to do with me this time, he is looking for you. With that said, Mephisto pointed at Hanyu, then stepped back a few steps to the side, saying that this matter has nothing to do with him, and if there is a fight, don't affect him. His appearance made Hanyu a little dumbfounded, You are the king of hell, hey, why don't you be so humble? Hanyu complained in his heart, but he didn't know that it was also because of Hanyu. If Mephisto hit Hela, he was afraid that Hanyu would be angry. So at this time, if it's nothing to do with yourself, you have to hang it high. Mephisto stood aside, watching his nose and heart, not knowing what to think there. You looking for me, who are you? Hela frowned and looked at Hanyu. She had never seen this person before, whether it was in Asgard or Hell, it was actually Mephisto who brought them here. It seems that they have something. Hello, let me introduce myself, my name is Hanyu, and I'm here to take you back to Asgard. Chapter 157 The Queen of Death Hela. Hearing Hanyu's words, Mephisto coughed several times in succession, and actually retreated a little distance to the side. Hela's tone gradually became unkind, What did you say? He said, Take you back to Asgard, have you lost your hearing after staying here for a long time, and you still can't hear clearly? As soon as Luoji blurted out his words, Hanyu behind him grabbed his collar and pushed it away. Where the two of them were standing, several short knives appeared on the ground. You guys are from Asgard? Hela said with a gloomy face, That old fellow Odin still knows how to send someone to see me, why isn't he dead yet? Odin is dead now, he has lost his divine power, and he is no longer the god king of Asgard. Loki said weakly, This sister of his is too strong, and he would strike at any disagreement, but he didn't have any fear on his face, instead he felt very excited. It seemed nice to have such a decisive sister. Hyla's expression froze, and she said immediately, What do you mean? Loki told Hela about the reality gem. At that time, in order to save his wife Frigga, Odin was willing to use all his divine power for the rest of his life in exchange for a chance for Frigga to live. Hearing this, Hela's eyes locked on Mephisto as sharply as a falcon, and two sharp blades appeared in her hands again, throwing them directly at Mephisto. "You old guy, you actually trapped me here." Odin's divine power disappeared, and Hela could feel it herself, and she could go out at that time, but she didn't notice it until Loki came to her. There was only one reason, that was Mephisto took action to isolate this induction. Mephisto dodged the two sharp knives, coughed dryly, and looked away with some erratic eyes. "Then what? The weather is really good today." As lame as Loki's reason, Gonita couldn't help laughing. She could find any reason when she was embarrassed. Hanyu held back Hela, who was about to go into a rage. With the latter's character, she could have left long ago but was trapped here. It's no wonder she didn't get angry. The most urgent thing now is to go back to Asgard. Asgard is in danger. Seeing that someone dared to pull her, Hela was surprised and asked, "Who are you? I have never seen you before." Hanyu let go of his hand and said, "My name is Hanyu, and I'm a grocery store manager. I'm here to help you in Asgard." When speaking, Hanyu used the word you. He observed Hela's expression. If the latter had any resistance to this word, it might not be a good idea to release Hela. Maybe later, it will also go against the water. But Hela didn't have any doubts. Instead she asked, "You just said that Asgard is in danger, what do you mean?" Loki walked up to Hela and explained the current situation Asgard was facing. The latter nodded, looked at Loki, and asked, "Who are you? You know Asgard quite well." Loki smiled awkwardly, and said, "I didn't have time to introduce myself just now. I am Odin's adopted son, and my name is Loki." Hearing this, Hanyu couldn't help but look at Loki a few times. Now he can say that he is Odin's adopted son generously. If he used to, he would definitely not say that. Presumably it should be the incident with Odin's wife Frigga that made Loki understand his feelings for Asgard, Odin, Frigga, and Thor. Heavier than anyone else. Hanyu knows this because he is a time traveler and has the memory of the future. In the future, Loki stepped forward to assassinate Thanos, but was crushed to death by the latter. Looking at it now, it was a very stupid act, but it also showed Loki's determination. He was really dead that time, unlike the previous feigning death. If Loki can play dead in front of Thanos, then his city is too deep. The adopted son of that old guy Odin? It's interesting. Why, he couldn't give birth to one, so he adopted one. Hela complained unabashedly. Hela is the only one who can complain about Odin so bluntly. No, he also has a biological son named Sol, and now he is struggling in Asgard. If you don't go back, Asgard will be occupied by the Vanir Protoss. When it came to Thor, Loki became anxious again. He remembered the current situation in Asgard and what happened to Thor. I originally wanted to stick with Thor, but the latter insisted on letting him come to Earth to find help. If he couldn't find it, he wouldn't be able to go back to Earth. This is also the original intention of Thor, because there is no way for the Earth to lead to Asgard, unless there is a noble person to help. This is also Thor's love for his younger brother. He still hopes that Loki can survive, even if he has been cheated so many times, he still loves his brother. Hela put her hands on her chest, curled her lips, and said, "Oh? It's interesting, but why should I help you? Don't forget, I'm here because that old fellow Odin locked me in. I'm not going to find Aspen. It would be good for Gad to take revenge, and now you want me to help them. This." Loki's eyes are wandering, and the anxiety in his heart is even worse. Hela is right, this matter should be placed on himself, and Loki will take revenge when he returns to Asgard, but now it is Asgard's life and death. At that time, it was impossible for him to refuse to save him. He just loves to play pranks and trick people, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have all kinds of emotions. He still has love for the people of Asgard. Loki turned his gaze to Hanyu, asking for help, but he was at a loss. Hanyu stood up, patted him on the shoulder, and signaled him to back off. After pondering for a while, he said, "Asgard's solution is not a dead end. Odin said that Asgard is not a place. It's the people, do you know that?" Hela snorted and turned her head away, but she also said she knew. Hanyu went on to say, "If I am allowed to come, I have a way to transfer the people of Asgard, but I can't guarantee that the sanctuary is still there. You know, it is said that the giant sword of the flame giant Surtur pierced into Asgard. Skard, will bring destruction to Asgard. My original intention was to let the main combat forces of the Vanir, Frost Giants and Flame Giants enter Asgard after evacuating the people of Asgard, and then grab the giant sword of the flame giant Surtur and pierce Asgard. Germany, detonate it. Although Asgard is destroyed, it is also a good way to hurt 800 enemies and 1000 yourself. As long as the main force dies, it will be very difficult for the remaining people to pursue the people of Asgard. Hearing what Han Yu said, Hela frowned slightly, stared at him closely, and said, "Are you threatening me?" 158 Negotiation, 2/4. The source of Hela's divine power is Asgard. If Asgard is destroyed, then she will lose her source of power. At that time, she will be a strengthened US team on the earth, and she will not be considered a god. This method is extremely threatening to Hela. Han Yu shook his head with a smile, and said with a harmless face, "It's not a threat, I'm just telling you my way. If you don't want to help, then you have to do this." After hearing this, Loki lowered his head and gritted his teeth, and clenched his fists tightly. He didn't expect Han Yu's method to be like this. But after listening to it this way, what he said is also a good way, even a way that Loki thinks is feasible. Facing the three-headed attack of the Warner Protoss, Ice and Fire Giants, Asgard can't last long with Thor and the others alone. Introducing the opponent's main combat power into Asgard and detonating Asgard can indeed win. It's just that this victory was exchanged for homeland, which is really a bad idea. Do you want Han Yu to help directly? Luoji thinks it is impossible. The other party is a businessman, not a bad guy. Being able to give this kind of method is already his greatest help. Han Yu is not Asgard's nanny. If anything happens, he must be found. He will be the king of Asgard. Loki stared at Hela closely. If the latter didn't agree to help, the only way was to destroy Asgard. After all, Han Yu also said, and Odin said, Asgard is not a place, but the people. Where the people are, that is Asgard. Loki is ready to lose both sides, if Hela doesn't help. Hela, who was staring at Han Yu, finally shook her head helplessly, and said, "It's such a good idea, it forced me to help." You agreed. Loki said happily. Hela said helplessly, "What can I do if I don't help? This great god has given me a way that Asgard will be destroyed if I don't help. What can I do? I can only help." "Okay, let's set off right away." Loki said excitedly that he couldn't wait to return to Asgard. He was very worried about Thor's current situation. Every point that was delayed would put Thor in a disadvantageous situation. But, how do we go back to Asgard? Now that the Rainbow Bridge has been occupied by the Warner Protoss guys, we can't go back at all. Loki said with a bitter face. "Don't worry, people always come up with the method. Before we go back, we have to go to another place." Han Yu laughed. "Where are you going?" Loki asked. Han Yu smiled and said, "Of course it's for your sister to get some equipment. Otherwise, she alone can't fight against those guys with no equipment." Hela rolled her eyes and didn't say anything, because what Han Yu said was right, he didn't have any equipment at hand, so it was really difficult to fight. "My weapon was a hammer before, why don't you find that hammer for me?" Hearing the hammer, Loki was keenly aware that what Hela was talking about should be the hammer Thor often held, and he asked, "Is it Mjolnir?" Mjolnir, this is the real name of Thor's hammer, but because Thor has been holding it and using it, it is already his signature weapon, so most people will directly call it Thor's hammer. "Yes, why, you know too." Hela said. "I know, that hammer is in Thor's hands now, and Odin has used it for him for a long time." Loki said. "In this way, we really have to find a new weapon." Hela nodded, with a trace of bitterness on her face, and said, "But a good weapon is not so easy to get, not all weapons can withstand my divine power." As she said that, she looked at Han Yu. For some reason, she felt that this boy might be able to solve this problem. Han Yu nodded and said with a smile, "Since I brought up the issue of weapons, it can definitely be done, just follow me." With that said, Han Yu turned to look at Mephisto. "You won't participate in this matter, will you?" "Me, I definitely won't participate, but I can go and have a look afterwards, maybe I can pick up a few powerful souls." Mephisto laughed, looking like a cunning man. Han Yu didn't expect him to help either. After shrugging his shoulders, he walked towards Johnny the Ghost Rider and said, "Thank you this time. Asgard will remember this favor." After this incident, if you need help, you can find Asgard. Han Yu said this, and he was making a decision for Asgard. He knew that Johnny's upper limit of combat power was very high, and the Ghost Rider in the future would be a very strong existence. An ally, good for them too. Johnny shook hands with Han Yu, joked and said with a smile, well, it is my honor to hug Asgard's thigh, and if I have difficulties, I will never be stingy to ask Asgard for help. Rocky also came over to shake hands with Johnny, hugged each other, and said sincerely, brother, it was a great help, take care. You too, take care. Johnny patted Rocky on the shoulder and said. Han Yu took out a teleportation scroll, and said to Luo Ji and the others, it's okay, we can leave. Okay, where are you going? The birthplace of artifacts, Nidai. Nidai. The most powerful forging race in the Marvel Universe, the planet where the dwarves live. Here, there is a star center that has been burning for tens of thousands of years, and countless large iron rings, used to gather the temperature brought by the burning star center. A fiery ray shoots from the center of the star, leads to a ring in the middle of the star ring, and then connects to the casting furnace. This casting furnace has not stopped working for tens of thousands of years, and has been running and burning. In the center of Nidavi, a dwarf craftsman was reporting to Ai Kui, the dwarf king in front of him, King, there is another message from the Vanir Protoss, saying that we are asked to forge an artifact. If we can control the Rainbow Bridge, otherwise, they're going to attack us. Ai Kui, the king of the dwarves, slapped the handle of the chair hard, and snorted coldly, humph, the dwarves' weapons are never given to anyone casually. And they still want an artifact that can control the Rainbow Bridge, what a fool's dream. This kind of artifact, we will only give it to the God King of Asgard. If others want to use this weapon to start a war, don't even think about it. Ai Kui was very angry, but his anger was useless. Although the dwarves could forge many magical weapons, they didn't know how to use them. They were just forging craftsmen, not good fighters. In terms of fighting, they are just better than ordinary earthlings. However, if we don't help, they will come to destroy us. Asgard is in danger now, so how can it care about us, said the dwarf craftsman. Ai Kui fell into deep thought. Indeed, if there is anyone who can solve this problem now, there is only one person, that unfathomable human being who has a grocery store on the earth. Just as he was thinking about Han Yu, a familiar chuckle also reached his ears. Ai Kui, long time no see. Hearing this familiar voice, Ai Kui suddenly raised his head, and saw a group of people standing not far away at some time, quietly appearing there. The leader is none other than Han Yu. 159 Dwarf Star, 3/4. Brother Han Yu, why did you come here without telling me first? Seeing Han Yu whom he hadn't seen for a long time, Ai Kui was naturally happy, got up quickly, and gave him a bear hug. The dwarf craftsman looked at this scene and was a little puzzled. It was rare to see Ai Kui showing such enthusiastic behavior. Even in the face of Odin, the former god king of Asgard, he had a cold look on his face. Now it is incredible to show such enthusiasm for an earthling. Let go, you're suffocating me to death. It was with great difficulty that Han Yu broke free from the position of his head, and was able to catch his breath. Ai Kui laughed, and seemed to be in a very good mood. He glanced at the people behind Han Yu, and his original normal eyes became more and more wrong. Pulling Han Yu over a few steps, he asked him with a trembling voice. Brother Han, what's going on with you? Why did those two women follow you? Are they Hela and Ganada? Are you being blackmailed? Brother Han, don't worry, they dare not do anything to me of. As Ai Kui, of course he knew who Hela and Ganada were, and when he saw Hela, he felt very bad. Hela must have known that thousands of years ago, Odin dispatched the Valkyrie to conquer Hela. The armor and weapons of the Valkyrie were forged by Ai Kui. After that, there was no second Valkyrie legion. One Hela was enough to surprise him, and now Ai Kui actually saw Ganada beside Han Yu. Even Odin, a god of this level, had to be polite and dare not make mistakes. Oh, tell them, Ganada is my friend, and Hela was brought by me to help Asgard. Now I will bring Hela to upgrade the equipment. Are you free? Han Yu said disapprovingly, as if he was talking about something normal. Ai Kui's expression was a little dull. He digested it for a while, and finally the words that came to his mouth turned into a light sigh. He patted Han Yu's shoulder and said, It's you, my brother Han Yu, you woman Yuan, the quality is too high. Han Yu smiled helplessly. Did Ai Kui think that both of them belonged to his harem? It was lonely. Hela just met, and Ganada only followed because she had delicious food. If they were his harem, Han Yu was afraid of being beaten, so he didn't even think about such a thing. By the way, you said forging weapons. Now Asgard is in great danger. The Wainer Protoss, who has been hiding for a long time, actually joined forces with the Frost Giant and the Fire Giant to invade Asgard. Hey, Loki is by your side, he knows this. Is it okay? Ai Kui said. He knows, it's because he came to tell me about this matter, and I intend to help solve it, so I rescued Hela and came to you to upgrade her equipment. Han Yu told Ai Kui about how he brought Hela up from hell, and the latter nodded frequently. That old guy Mephisto is so shameless. Ai Kui spat and said disdainfully. Han Yu smiled, turned to look at Hela, and asked, what weapon do you usually use? Use a sword, but you don't need to forge a weapon for me. Hela folded her hands together, and when she wiped them away, a sharp blade gleaming with cold light appeared in her hand. You help me forge a pair of armor. Well, I think that's better, the sword is just a consumable in my hand. It's fine, but what should I do? Ordinary armor can't withstand your divine power. Ai Kui said. Han Yu also fell into deep thought. The current Hela's upper limit of ability is far from what it was 1,000 years ago. Hela has the upper limit of supernatural power to reach the Heavenly Father level gods, but she also needs a good set of equipment, otherwise she cannot be well equipped. Ability to play out. As I said before, the Asgardians are high-tech aliens, not purebred gods. Their divine power phenomenon can only be manifested with equipment reaching a certain level. While thinking about it, Han Yu also rummaged through the grocery store system to see if there were any suitable things that could be used. Hey, what is this, Shendui? It seems pretty good. Han Yu saw an item in the grocery store list, clicked on it, and the introduction inside read, the battle suit of the guardian of the Nordic god King Odin, which is similar to the holy weapon of the holy warrior's holy clothes. Yes, this thing is also based on Nordic mythology, and there is a suit that fits Hela. Han Yu clicked on one of the god-fighting clothes, which was called Tianchuan Xing. It was made with an accompanying flame sword, and the battle suit itself could resist the attack of the ice system. It couldn't be more suitable. I have a solution. Han Yu took out the blueprint of the Tianchuan star god-fighting clothes, and said to Ai Kui, make it according to the things on it. Can you do it? Ai Kui said while taking the blueprint. There was a trace of suspicion in his tone. After all, they started with forging. In terms of forging weapons and equipment, they are really the second in the universe, no one dares to be the first, so regarding the blueprint given by Han Yu, his arrogance still made him a little suspicious. But looking at it this way, he was dumbfounded, and hurriedly walked to the side and directly performed a desktop cleaning master operation on the table, carefully spreading the drawings on the table. There are 3 big characters written on the drawing, which are written in ancient Chinese characters. Ai Kui couldn't understand them. Han Yu told him that those 3 characters read Tian Xing. Even if it is not made, Ai Kui can see that the forging method in this blueprint is feasible, and the forged battlesuit is very strong. Ai Kui will definitely not be able to forge a battlesuit of this level now. A dwarf noticed Ai Kui's serious expression, so he came up to look curiously. This sight attracted him too. 1, 2, 3. In the end, more than a dozen dwarves gathered around the table to look at the drawing, and there were others who wanted to see it, but they couldn't squeeze in, so they could only circle around anxiously outside. The blueprint that can move Ai Kui, and the blueprint that can attract so many dwarves to watch, is definitely a treasure, and the grade must be very high, otherwise Ai Kui would not be able to look at this blueprint so seriously. What did you show them? You looked at it very carefully. There are so many people, but you didn't make a sound. Loki approached Han Yu and said quietly. When the dozen or so dwarves looked at the blueprint, they didn't make a sound at all. When they walked over, they all looked at the blueprint quietly, as if they were absorbed into the blueprint. Everyone's minds were immersed in the blueprint, feeling the design in the blueprint. It's just a battlesuit. Han Yu smiled. He waited for Ai Kui and the others to look at it for nearly 10 minutes before shouting to Ai Kui, how is it? My blueprint is not bad, is it? 160 god-fighting clothes, 4/4. Yes, very good, Brother Han, you must hand over this suit to our dwarves to make it. Whoever makes it will ruin this suit. Ai Kui said seriously. Han Yu chuckled and said, "Of course I want you to build it. That's why I came here." Ai Kui nodded heavily, and began to shout to the dwarves beside him, "Everyone put down the work in hand and come over together. Everyone has 10 minutes to see clearly what you need to forge. Be sure to do better. Stake the name of our dwarves." "Yes." The voices of the dwarves were loud, and they immediately put down their work and ran towards Ai Kui. They lined up in a regular line to look at the blueprint of the god-fighting clothes. Even those who hadn't seen it were attracted by the blueprint. At the end, it was the reminders from the people around them that brought them back to their senses. According to the design position of the parts given by Ai Kui, they hurried to operate. Everyone looked very serious, as if they were taking an exam that meant a lot to them. Han Yu looked at the people with serious faces, turned around and said to Luo Ji and the others, "Just sit and wait, I believe they can do it." With that said, Han Yu used the energy of the green light to materialize several sofas for them to sit on, and went to find Ai Kui by himself. "Old Ai, I have some ideas about the battle clothes," Han Yu said. Ai Kui looked at him and said, "Say it." "I want to need some Uru metal into it, so that the suit can withstand magic more," Han Yu said. "Ulu, is it really good to give that thing to her?" Ai Kui whispered. Uru metal has always been used as the manufacturing material for Asgard's royal weapons, and every weapon forged from Uru metal is at the level of a magic weapon. Thor's hammer, for example, is made from the core of a dying star with Uru metal. Hela has a criminal record. The workmanship of this god-fighting clothes itself is very good, and it can bring a great increase in combat power and defense to the wearer. If Ulu metal is added, this battle clothes may be out of control by itself. No battle will be lost. Add it in, my stuff, I'm sure I can control it, and she will definitely stay in Asgard after that. She will be a great superpower in Asgard. The stronger she becomes, let Asgard is more secure. Han Yu said that Hela has always been a very powerful force for Asgard. In his memory, Thor was left alone in the end, his parents, brother, sister, he lost them all. That kind of ending was too bleak. Han Yu sympathizes with him like this. Now that he can help him, it's okay to help him in a timely manner. It is also for Asgard's sake to strengthen Hela's combat power now. The words have come to this point, Ai Kui will not say more, and go to build the parts he is responsible for. Han Yu followed him to watch, curious about the building process. He could have taken out a complete set of god-fighting clothes, but even if Han Yu is now a junior store manager, he still needs 50 upgrade points to take it out. With his current level, the only thing he can give out for free is the blueprint of the battlesuit. As for the production materials and production process, Han Yu has to come by himself. Fortunately, there is an artifact factory called Star of the Dwarves, so Han Yu is not worried about this problem. Half an hour later, Ai Kui's voice suddenly sounded. "Oops! What's wrong?" Han Yu asked. Ai Kui picked up the drawing, pointed to a place, and said, "There is a place where the level of detail is beyond my expectation. The hammer I have at hand can't hit such a level of detail." Han Yu said, "Can't it be solved?" Ai Kui pondered for a moment, and said, "It's no problem to solve it. I can create an additional hammer that can achieve this precision, but it will take at least 12 hours. If this is the case, the construction period will be delayed a lot. 12 hours is a long time. If it was 1 or 2 hours, Han Yu could still afford to wait, but now time is life. He didn't know how many Asgardians died with each passing hour, so the faster the progress the better. Han Yu stroked his chin, and suddenly said, "By the way, what do you think of my hammer?" As he said that, Han Yu opened his palm, and on his right hand, wisps of black light poured out of his palm, solidifying into a delicate hammer with a round head in his palm, which he held firmly in his hand. "You are..." Ai Kui kept his gaze fixed, stretched his neck, and looked at the hammer carefully, his eyes straightened. "Can you show me?" "Can." Han Yu controlled the hammer and lightly threw it to Ai Kui, who subconsciously reached out with one hand, trying to catch it. The moment Ai Kui got the hammer in his hand, Ai Kui's face changed suddenly. The moment his hand grasped the handle of the hammer, he sank a lot. If he hadn't adjusted his footplate in time, he would have fallen to the ground. "You hammer, so powerful." Ai Kui's eyes were a little unbelievable, and he almost murmured that he had to use nearly half of his body's strength to hold the hammer firmly in his hand. "What's your hammer called?" "Haoshin." Han Yu chuckled lightly, He had been pressing the hammer on the warehouse for a long time, but he didn't expect it to come in handy today. It's amazing, if I can have such a hammer, my forging technology can rise to the top. Ai Kui said a little fondly. Han Yu stretched out his hand to make a move, and the clear sky hammer flew back into his hand. He touched his own clear sky hammer very preciously, and said with a smile, "This hammer has only one handle, so don't play tricks on it. I'll buy it, you make a price, can I buy it?" Ai Kui became interested, he really fell in love with this hammer, he thought for a while, and said. "I promise you, within 5,000 years, no matter what you want to forge, I will help you unconditionally. How? If this price is put on someone else, they might really agree. After all, the dwarf craftsman's weapons are all high-quality goods, and if you sell the most inferior ones, they can all be peerless magic weapons in a planet, which is enough to show Ai Kui's condition is so generous. My hammer is really unique, so don't even think about it. If I can find a second hammer in the future, I will definitely give it to you." Han Yu said. "Okay, then such a happy decision." Ai Kui nodded fiercely. He regretted what he said just now, and he said it just now. For others, his conditions are indeed generous. But the person in front of him was Han Yu. With his mysterious background, Ai Kui didn't think that the other party would pay too much attention to his skills. Now asking himself to help, it's just that he doesn't want to do it. Han Yu's forging skills are not bad, and Ai Kui has seen all kinds of strange props appearing in him. It's true that he loves the Haoshan hammer, but it's impossible to do something like seizing someone's love. Seeing that Han Yu gave it a step, Ai Kui also followed the trend. End of the chapter. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.